Council meeting for March 21st, 2023. The clerk will call the roll for attendance.
Anderson Burgos.
Here.
Bartley.
Here.
Givner.
Here.
Jordan.
Here.
Maldonado Velez. McGee.
Here.
McGivern.
Here.
Murphy Ramboletti.
Here.
Puello.
Here.
I. Rivera. J. Rivera.
Here.
Tallman.
Here.
Bacon.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
The City of Holyoke.
City Council.
First thing is we did pull a name from the tin can, and lucky winner again, Councilor Tallman. 2 meetings in a row.
2 in a row. Okay, keep it going then.
So one vote.
On a roll.
Win a lottery.
We'll start with Councilor Tallman. With that, the first thing up is a public hearing for a petition for pole and wire location, the gas and electric request, permission to locate a line, wires, cables, poles, fixtures, including, and then it gives the measurements for 175 Lincoln Street.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion is open the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We do have someone on from Gas and Electric, I do believe. It's Vincent.
Yes, that's correct.
How are you, sir?
Good, how you doing?
Good. We'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so we're looking to install a pole. This pole's gonna have a piece of equipment on it that's gonna be used for some backup to the circuit in that area. It's also gonna help us with a couple of backyard relocations for services.
Any?
We did send out some letters to the residents that abut this area as well within about a 300-foot buffer zone. Those letters went out probably about 2.5 weeks ago.
Okay.
Did they receive any feedback from any of the residents or
All
any
right. So
concerns?
first we'll go to questions. First is Councilor Jordan, then Councilor Bartley.
To the representative of the Gas and Electric, did you, in that solicitation for the meeting, did you receive any concerns or any questions from the abutters that were notified?
I've not received any response yet from anybody, although I did speak with a few residents that I was able to get a hold of via telephone, and they were fine with it. In fact, we're working with a couple of them on their services.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Bartley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to the Genie, can you just identify your name and your address, please, first? And then I just have a couple follow-up questions. They're just totally miscellaneous.
Sure. Vincent O'Connell, HG&E, 99 Suffolk Street, Holyoke.
And your title, Mr. O'Connell?
Electrical engineer.
All right, thank you. So just for the record, sometimes we just have that for the record. Mr. O'Connell, thanks for being here. Just 2 things. One, a 45-foot pole, is that the standard height of a pole? I just don't remember that being ever specified in one of your requests prior to this.
Yes, that's for this specific area. It is because it's for backbone, which is our main line, our trunk, so to speak, of the circuit for that area. And the equipment that we're actually installing on it, it's required to have a 45-foot pole for clearance.
Oh, okay, for clearance from the
For the work, for the personnel working on it, there has to be a certain amount of inches from the top of the pole to some other part on the pole where we actually set the piece of equipment. It's about 109 inches, and that's required clearance for that piece of equipment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. O'Connell. And then, what necessitated this?
We're working on some upgrading the circuit from 4.8 kV, basically a lower voltage to a higher voltage. We're also adding in some distributed automation to help with outage management. Again, this is going to be a backup to the existing circuit there. So if there's an issue downstream somewhere on the existing circuit, this will open or close, I should say, and it'll be backed up by another circuit that can energize this area and bring customers back online sooner.
Okay, you've answered my questions. Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone here from the public with regard to this issue? Anyone online?
I'll move to close the
Just making sure, no one online, no one in chamber, okay.
hearing.
Josh is waiting, but yeah, go ahead, Counselor Bartley.
I'll just move to close the public hearing.
Motion
Second.
is to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
And I'll move to grant, to approve the petition.
I'll second that.
Motion is to approve the petition for the poll. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for that.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Puello,
Yes.
J. Rivera.
Yes.
Unanimous.
With your vote, you approve that.
Mr. President,
Counselor McGivern.
I can make a motion to proceed out of order to take up public comment next. I see 2 or 3 laid on the table items that might come to a final vote tonight. And I think in fairness, there may be people from the public here to speak on them.
Second that.
Motion is to go to public comment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Online, joining us now is Counselor Maldonado Velez. So he is here. Public comment. I do have a sheet here. Sign-in sheet 4 here. First is Steve. Steve Subra from 17 Glen Street, if I said that correctly, if I'm reading it right. Name, is it working? Just give it a tap. There's a switch underneath. On the microphone itself. All right, full name and address, and just those who are speaking, it's a minute and a half, whether it's in chamber or online. Around the minute mark, I'll just wave at you saying hi, and then we'll go from there. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Steve.
I appreciate it. Greetings, counselors. My name is Steve Superba. I live at 17 Glen Street and have lived there for 35 years. I voted in every election, and being a homeowner, I've paid my fair share of taxes. It is from the prospective taxpayer that I offer the following commentary. I'm extremely disturbed and disappointed after reading the report compiled by Municipal Resources Incorporated entitled Police Department Risk Review. This disappointment is primarily directed at the Office of the Chief of Police. Upon reading the employment contract of Chief Pratt, it establishes that his primary role in that department is manager. The content of the report, containing all the deficiencies and liabilities, establishes that these were the manager's responsibility. It is not my intention to vilify or disparage Chief Pratt. However, it is apparent that Chief Pratt is underperforming, and these shortcomings are the result of either an unwillingness or an ability to perform. In fairness to Chief Pratt, I'm going to assume inability. The MRI report is replete with excellent kernels of wisdom and suggestion. The consultation team adroitly noted that as supervisors climb the ladder of hierarchy into leadership roles within the Holyoke Police Department, they do so without the benefit of training and education. Few people are born leaders, but there are plenty of successful leaders in a variety of fields who, with the aid of said training and proper motivation,
1 minute.
become effective leaders. Also included in the report, along the same line of thought, are the kernels offered in anecdotal form, gathered during the interview process or survey of departmental personnel. More than one person questioned the wisdom of promoting someone solely on the results of a test without consideration of any other quality or attributes. Being promoted as a result of a single test is the standard in the Holyoke Police Department. There is no process to prepare these newly promoted personnel within the department to be successful.
We're at our time, so just
Very
to
good.
finish up. Yeah, you just finish up.
Well, I got quite a bit, so I'm not.
Yeah, we're at the time. I didn't know how far, but
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next is Demiris. Sorry. Oh my God, I gotta get my glasses changed. I don't have an address listed, but you'll have to state the address.
Okay. My name is Damaris Seymour, 11 Village Road, and I would like to read into the record an email that I sent to my ward counselor. I live in Ward 5. So this email was sent on March 7th. of this year. And it says, "Good morning, Councilor Bacon. I received your flyer, and I wanted to thank you for your commitment to our ward and our city. I am not just a resident in your ward, but I also work for the city of Holyoke and fall under Schedule A. I ask for your support in the vacation ordinance as I come to the city with over 20 years of experience and was only given 10 vacation days. Family/work balance is crucial for all of us. I have a family of 5, and being able to have time to spend with my family is valuable. Time off given to the employees an opportunity to reset and rejuvenate, to be a better team player. I work beyond my 35 hours, and this order will give it will give me acknowledgement of my hard work that I do. I look forward to continue to serve my city and work with the councilors to make a desirable a place to live and work. Thank you for your commitment to our great city. Thank you."
Thank you. Next is Vadim. Vadim.
Vadim,
I tried real hard reading that. All right. Sorry about that.
No worries at all.
So full name and address, please.
Vadim Toljinsky, 801 Dwight Street.
It's all yours.
Esteemed councilors, my name is Vadim Tolchinsky from Urbanist Development. Thank you for considering our application to the CPA to restore the beloved Wernick Furniture Building. When I moved to Holyoke a decade ago, it was because I fell in love with the city's architecture and its promise, because I wanted to help in whatever small way I could to restore these iconic buildings. In that time, I watched from the second floor of the Wernick as bulldozers tore down 111 High, right across the street. The best way to save these historic treasures for our kids is to put them back on the tax rolls. Our ask of the CPA is to match 50-50 our funds with yours to help save the Wernick's historic facade. We know that CPA funds are precious and that every dollar counts. So here's what this investment buys the city. 1, it restores a historic facade for future generations to enjoy. 2, it leverages federal dollars to build 19 badly needed apartments. And 3, it adds an additional $30,000 of taxes onto the city's treasury rolls every year.
1 minute.
So please help us restore one of Holyoke's jewels to its crown and to its tax base. Thank you very much for your time and for your consideration.
Thank you. Next is Lourdes Martinez, Maple Crest Circle.
Hi, my name is Lourdes Martinez, Maple Crest Circle. I am the Assistant Treasurer for the City of Holyoke. I want to thank you for taking the time to consider Schedule A employees and their vacation time. These employees work very hard for the city, and I think it would be great for our hard work and dedication to be recognized. As the Assistant Treasurer and someone who falls into this category, your support would mean a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Deb Burnell, Dexter Street.
Hi, Deb Burnell of 18 Dexter Street in Holyoke. I am city employee under Schedule A, and I'd like to speak for all the employees under Schedule A who have been long forgotten in both salary and benefits. I believe it would be beneficial to increase benefit offerings for new employees so that we can attain quality, experienced, educated employees, and also retain long-term employees. The cost benefit to the city in offering these benefits to them greatly outweighs the immediate cost of giving them this benefit. Saving money in the long run by attaining these employees and retaining them saves the city money in hiring and training, and it's just beneficial for everybody. A lot of employees have left other sectors to come work for the city, and they've given up many benefits in order to come do this. They're hardworking, as in the woman in my office that was recently hired who gave up a lot to come here. She is highly experienced and qualified. we would be certainly amiss not to have someone like her work for the city. And all of these other employees here that spoke, I believe if you weigh the cost benefits of it, you'll see it's beneficial to the city to offer that to the employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone online? So no hands raised. There was one communication from George Meddy. As president of the Holyoke Public Library Corporation, I support the ordinance which increases the amount of vacation time the city may give to prospective applicants as well as current employees who have experience. This is one of the areas in the city may be competitive with other cities or private industries to attract and retain qualified candidates. It is a tool we should take advantage of. Sincerely, George Meddy, president of HPLC. There's no one else in the chamber. So with that, that would end public comment. Now we go back to items laid on the table. 2 is from the city solicitor, update on outside legal fees from 11/4/22 to 2.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to remove from the table.
Motion to remove from the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So, Counselor
Under
Bartley?
discussion.
Under discussion.
Just hold on a second. Thanks. My motion is to, let me make a motion to receive it, and then under discussion,
All
if I may.
right. Motion to receive, Counselor Bartley.
Okay, I guess I'll second it. This is a follow-up to an order I filed in October, and the order said at that time, request a communication documenting legal fees incurred by the city as a result of actions and votes pertaining to Dunkin' Donuts Log Cabin and votes of the planning board. Please respond within 30 days. And also, please update the council every quarter. And the first one we received showed the total legal fees remitted as a result of this vote that is still pending in Superior Court, to the best of my knowledge, and this is outside legal counsel, is $65,469. We did receive a update dated March 3rd, but I think this is through February, and it combined various legal fees from outside counsel, but as best I could tell, Mr. President, it looks like another $8,200 has been spent on Morrison Mahoney, and Morrison Mahoney is the recipient of the prior 65-4. So to the best of my math, it looks like Morrison Mahoney to date, as a result of this vote, has been paid $74,554. And we'll reserve comment for another time, but we're just adding up the funds for outside legal counsel relative to litigation concerning Dunkin' Donuts Log Cabin at this point. So it's just to round it off, at this point, it looks like it's just a little south of $75,000. And I look forward to another update next quarter. Thank you, Mr. President.
So, unless I see anyone else? No. So, motion is to receive these. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 3 is from Kathy Deegan, which is legal for vacation leave. Take up item 3, or what are we doing for this?
No motion, I guess we're moving on.
Well, Mr. President, if I don't have a motion, I would like to take item 6. If the 3, 4, and 5 are going to stay on the table, it looks like they are.
Okay, motion to go to item 6.
Can I make a motion to take item 6 off the table for purposes of discussion?
Hold on. So,
I'm sorry.
well, Counselor Bartley, someone said something, but you're up first. So.
Well, no, I'll.
Well, no, you were speaking, so we're gonna. So you're saying motion to take up item 6.
Yes.
For purpose of discussion.
All
Yes.
those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, so petition for a zone change application from BH to BH for 2203 Northampton Street.
So,
Counselor Bartley.
at this point, I'd like to give this leave to withdraw but I'm not really sure if that's the proper motion, because we did receive a communication from the actual owners, I think we all did, saying that we don't support this and we don't back this. Now, unfortunately, that communication, I think, just went to counselors. I don't know if it's on this agenda, so I don't want to do anything that's out of order.
So nothing received to us.
Well, I got
via
a email, but
Nothing received in the sense of through the clerk to send it through to all of us.
okay. So if I may.
Yep.
Okay. So probably the best procedure is just to leave it on the table, and then I'll forward that communication to the clerk and whomever.
All right. So anyone further on 6? No. So 6 is just to remain on the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So
Take item 7 ready to go? We have from the finance, is the finance chairman ready to go on 7, 8, 9, or?
8 and 9, yes, and maybe on 7.
Okay.
So 7, motion is removed from the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Communication from finance was referred in order from the mayor, a list of historical preservation relating to repairs needed to the city buildings as requested by Councilor Jordan, Councilor Bartley, Councilor Rivera, and Councilor Vacan, which is filed April 5th, 2022. Recommend that the order has been complied with. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee recommended that this order be complied with. I just read the minutes, and I have no memory of why we kept this on the table, so I'll defer maybe to the maker of the order.
Hold on 1 second.
We did receive the information. I think there was a question.
Yes, the question, Mr. Chairman, if you recall, it was that the mayor would produce an actual list of those public, for example, we heard a nice gentleman here who's requesting that we give money to his private project from CPA. There's some of us in the school of thought that we should be doing historic preservation first on our own public buildings, and I've yet to receive the list, albeit exhaustive as it can be, of what we can actually spend our public money on for public projects. So that was what the request of the list was, so that, because what we were told is from the CPA committee, the reason we're giving money out to private organizations is because we don't have a shovel-ready list of public projects to give it to. And then I think esoterically we said, well, look at all the murals here that are peeling off the walls and all the other things that need to be done with public buildings. So we were kind of looking for them to give us the list. If that's not ready to go, then we should probably table it and then take it from there.
Councilor Rivera.
Just to clarify, I remember signing on to this order, and I agree with regards to having a list of what things we would like to tackle through CPA. But I think for me, it's not, even if we were provided a list at CPA can't take the initiative themselves to do this. The department heads themselves have to work with the CPA and apply for the funding. Right now, I think the only ones that are applying is Parks and Rec and Yoni through Conservation and Parks Recreation. So that's why they're getting their awards. So the onus should kind of fall on the department heads. With regards to this order, I think for me in signing on is just to tell them to like, hey, I want to see some applications. Why aren't there any applications? But it'd be good to have the list so that way if we want, when we email them directly, we can say, hey, listen, applications are opening up. Are you planning on applying for these issues or items? Thank you.
Mr.
Councilor Givner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do recall discussions about this that were specifically related to the fact that there are no grant writers specifically in each department. So although we realize there's historic preservation needed on public buildings, to just echo what Councilor Rivera said, people have to apply for funds to receive them. So we can get as many lists as we like, but people have to apply for funds to receive them. Thanks.
Councilor Jordan.
Yeah, both my colleagues are 100% correct. They're pointing out the problem, and I 100% agree with we don't have people doing this, and we don't have a list. You're 100%. What I'm suggesting is, okay, that's the problem. What is now the solution? And what I'm suggesting is that we actually create a list that says, okay, let's fix the problem. And what I'm getting concerned about is we're now turning to non-public projects because no one is actually giving the CPA committee the public project list. So I'm sort of pushing the envelope here to ask them to actually produce a list. And I think we should pretty much, everybody says, yes, absolutely, we should do it. I think there's unanimous agreement to do it. The problem is it isn't getting done. So I guess we should maybe table it and refer it back to the mayor to talk to whoever is needed to give us the list. But we certainly all know there's plenty of historic preservation projects that could be done. And so if we could at least get the list of the ones that if they had a magic wand that they would like to have done, then we can then take it upon ourselves to say, okay, what's now the next step? Are you going to actually put in an application to CPA? Are you going to do what's the priorities on the list? Is it these three are the most important and then to these lists? But, we're getting requests to now give away another $250,000 because we're not coming forward with our own projects.
Next was Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of follow-up questions. And I was just wondering if maybe we could refer this back to finance, or if finance doesn't want it, we could refer it to DGR or something, just to have a little more in-depth discussion on it. So I'll hold off on my motion until we I'll hear from the finance chair.
Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance will be happy to if we want more discussion. I thought it was just waiting for the actual list itself. The point of Councilor Jordan is well taken. I have a different opinion of CPA, but that's okay too. We're all in this to not always fully agree, but to me, community preservation, and I don't have a problem saying public buildings should be prioritized, historical public preservation projects should be prioritized. But I have no problem saying an historic building in the city of Holyoke is meant to be also helped by CPA. And I think that's, if you look at the state level and look at the law and look at what it's all about, it makes sense that we are preserving as many historic buildings as we can with these funds. And I think the people I talk to are in agreement with that. And, so often we hear the Historic Commission come into us and tell us, so-and-so wants to demolish this building. Well, if we had CPA dollars available, we might be able to save that building before the owner or the new owner decided that it was time to replace the building. And to me, that's what CPA is about. If it's an historic building, the committee does a great job of vetting historic preservational projects with the Historic Commission and with the state itself when necessary. So that's just my opinion. But I have no problem if we're not looking for more than a list, we would be happy to have another discussion.
Councilor Givner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to point out that having a list is not going to create the applications for the funding. So I wonder if we are holding up CPA funding while the city figures out how to get their departments together. As we know, there are many new department heads. There is a lot going on in the city, and they may just not be there yet. I think it makes sense to want a list because I also think that's very important. But then, if we can disseminate this list for like the next round of CPA funds, perhaps, because I think right now we're talking about holding up funds for people who are following the rules, applying for funds that are available, and now we want to hold it up because our various departments either don't have the capacity or don't know how to apply. I don't really know what that specific issue is, but I hate to think that things aren't getting done while we debate how to get it done. Thanks.
Councilor McGivern.
Just a clarification, this, regardless of the list being produced, will not hold up any CPA monies or projects. They may preclude, or maybe a councilor may not vote on something because they feel the list was never produced or the no action was taken on behalf of the city, but that doesn't stop CPA or the city council from voting on any projects that come down the pike. Matter of fact, there's a list coming in this evening of the more recent ones that were vetted by the CPA committee.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, so I don't know where that theory even started, but this is just, but I can see this has gone to a larger discussion, and I'd rather now, I mean, I'll send it to finance since Joe and Kevin are there, so I'm going to make a motion to refer it back to finance for additional discussion and to send the communication to the mayor to procure the aforesaid list.
Second.
One, because Counselor Vacan for the first time has her hand up and she's home. So Counselor Vacan, before we get to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. Just as one example, I think it would be great if the mural in council chambers was on the list, because we've all been talking about that needing restoration for years. And I think part of the problem is that perhaps people aren't sure who's on point for this particular room. And I think if we send it over to the mayor and to committee, we'll be able to get more focus on it. Thank you.
All right, so motion is to refer.
Mr. President, can I amend? I can't amend, I know I can. So I'm going to amend this order, since I think I wrote it. I'm going to amend this order to add Councilor Bacon's question relative to who's a person who can apply to redo this beautiful mural that's been cracking and peeling for many, many city councils. So if we could just add that to the question that we get in committee too, okay?
All right. So our motion is
Second.
to add an update on the city chamber wall.
Well summarized, yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then on the main motion, as amended, refer it back to Finance Committee for whenever it can be taken up.
So 7 back to finance as
Second.
amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
8 is the Committee on Finance who's referred in order at the city solicitor draft a ballot question. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just ask that this be quickly removed from the table. We stated at our last meeting, and we're told that we are still in a good time frame to get the language available to vote on our final vote and meet the deadline. The language is in the works by the law department. Attorney Degan is working on it. I was told by the city solicitor this evening. So I just want to make sure with the city clerk that we have time to keep this on the table and not violate any rules, and be able to, once the language is available, put it in front of the, put it up for a final vote.
So motion, you want a motion to take it off the table for now, or?
I think I thought we already did.
No, we didn't vote yet, but.
No, we didn't.
All those
Then
in
I just
favor?
said what I said.
All
We don't have
opposed?
to.
Councilor McGivern spoke. We're caught back up. Here we go.
Okay.
So any questions on this one? Councilor Bartley.
Well, just a motion to suspend the rules and ask the solicitor when we can anticipate receiving the
So
draft language.
motion to suspend the rules to allow legal to answer a question. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
To legal. Kathy is on.
Okay.
So Kathy.
Yes, good evening, councilors. I can have this done by the end of April, if that works for everyone.
Most important, does it work for the city clerk?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I'll do it earlier if it's an issue. Perhaps the beginning of April. I want to make sure that we're in a good frame to get this on the ballot.
Okay, so Kevin, then, so Councilor Jordan.
Kathy, when the language is prescriptive, specifically stated as to what the language has to be, I think the statute speaks to it. We've already have the question worded from the last ballot question. You're simply changing a couple words. Why does that take 2 months to get that put into form for us? That seems odd to me when I see other things that get turned around here that are much more seemingly needing to have legal form immediately get turned around in 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, the reason why is because at current, I'm under some deadlines with respect to litigation that are very pressing. You're right, it won't take a long time. And as I said, I can do it by the beginning of April, the first couple days of April, if that works. So I'm only talking about a couple weeks.
Okay. For our next meeting and the first meeting in April, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, just through the chair to Attorney Degnan. Attorney Degnan, thank you for being here as always. Will you, just so I'm clear, you'll send it in a form of a communication to the city council? And then will we have the opportunity to just act on it that night, or does it have to go to committee? I'm just trying to remember the process.
No, I mean, it has to go before this body to vote on it before we can put it on the ballot. I'm not sure whether or not it's your procedure to send it to ordinance. That's another reason why I can understand why you have to get it done sooner, in case you want to send this to ordinance or charter and rules, whatever subcommittee. But it definitely has to be approved by this council before we can even get it on the ballot. So, you know, I think that it might be up to this body as to whether they want to send it to subcommittee or not.
Well, that's right. You anticipated my point. So if we, you know, generally we have taken it as a community. So I would anticipate getting a communication from the law department for the first meeting in April, and then we can decide whether or not we want to refer it to committee or vote it on the floor. But I mean, typically, and we don't have a lot of experience with this, but typically we've sent it to committee just to double check. Now, which committee it receives it, I don't really think it particularly matters. But my point is, if we get it in the first meeting in April, then we refer it to committee. You know, best case scenario is the second meeting in April, but maybe it's not until the first meeting in May. And boy, we're coming up to it at that point, because now we're getting into close to budget time, because that's middle of May or end of May, 45, wherever it is, the 45-day mark. You know, we're getting close. So that's why I'm kind of hopeful we can get some kind of a communication by the first meeting in April, Kathy. That's really what I'm asking. So.
Yes. No.
Thank you.
You will have it, Councilor.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right, Councilor Vacan was next. Councilor Vacan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to note that we have already referred this matter to Finance, and Finance recommended it out for the proper legal form so that it would be properly placed on the ballot in terms of process. Thank you.
Councilor McGivern, then Councilor Rivera.
Councilor Vacan took the words right out of my mouth. We use the ordinance committee format, you know, after something is voted on in the ordinance committee. The Finance Committee just chose to refer to the full City Council and ask the Law Department to draft the language. I'm not even sure if it's, you know, semantics, but it's not so much legal form, but the Finance Committee's recommendation is very specific, a very short, concise, open-ended question with the 1%. Nothing else. Right. Nothing on either side of the equation, yes or no. There is a difference from the original question, because the original question, there was no CPA tax and no adoption of the Mass General Law itself for CPA. This is a question to reduce what was originally voted upon by the voters of the 1.5%, and to give them the option, if they choose, to go to 1. There'll be people arguing that we should stay at the 1.5. The CPA committee chair made a great recommendation and historical review of what has happened in that committee. And there's going to be others that are going to see that, you know, for affordability and other reasons, they choose the option to reduce it for now. But that's what the Finance Committee recommends. The committee's already done their work. We'll be glad to take it again, but we're running out of time.
Councilor Rivera.
For me, it was procedure, right? Why wouldn't it go to the charter and rules after the new language came out for a committee to have conversation on the language if it's a charter and rules?
I think because we were taking it up No. We were taking up like we did the last time we did the CPA, which was through Finance. Plus, we were having.
But I thought
CPA
ballot
come
questions
in.
came out of charters and rules.
You're correct, but once again, when we started CPA, and because we already had orders in Finance, and correct me if I'm wrong, to have them come in and give an update, it just seemed that it was already all there. Just do it, and then they recommended it out to do the ballot question. So it's kind of like sometimes. It should go to that committee, but another committee's handling it.
No, I get that, but it's just this is like gonna be on the ballot. Like it's like something that has like real life impact, right? It's not like another committee could just pick it up and do the work, and they can, but ultimately, shouldn't we do things the right way?
Well, actually, as Jeff corrected me, it was DGNR that took it up the first time.
It was.
So, and I misspoke. I
We
said
shouldn't be
finance,
charting
but-
the rules, though.
But no, it originated from DGNR the last
I'm just,
time.
and I'm not trying to be argumentative or none of that. I'm just trying to understand due process, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
I've been explained certain things, and people have come at me about not understanding it. So right now, I'm trying to understand why it doesn't go to charter and rules after with the language, so that charters and rules could have the conversation around the language that was developed, because that is the purpose of charter and rules. If not, then what is the purpose of having charter and rules?
I understand, but I trying
And
to
I'm
say
not- again,
what
I'm
happened.
sorry.
That's why it came
Okay.
this way.
All right,
That's all.
thank you. It just had an epiphany, and it just hit me like, why isn't there a charter and rules?
All right, Counselor Bacon has.
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, who is next? Anyone? Kevin?
Yeah.
You have a question or no?
I just wanted to make a brief comment.
Oh, okay, Counselor.
Thank you.
I thought you were saying no. I'm done.
No. A brief comment. I don't know if you saw it, but it was on the agenda. We had a full discussion of this item at Finance. We discussed the whole thing, and it was 0.5, get rid of it, 1.5. I mean, there was a whole presentation, was really well done by Megan from the chairman of the CPA. She did a whole PowerPoint slide deck, went through the whole history and projects. I just want to not put out there like there was no discussion of this item. We had a very long discussion of this item. So just so we're all clear about that.
I'm just going to make one announcement. Out in the hall, flying around right now, is a bat. So if it comes in here, I'm just giving a heads up. That's all I'm saying. I don't want
Taking a recess?
It just flew by 3 times, and I confirmed
Batman.
it. Yeah, so I'm just heads up if it does happen.
Cool.
All right. So who's next?
Batman.
Do we know what kind of bat it is?
I didn't get a memo. I didn't track it down. But with that, Councilor Bartley, are you next?
No, I'm set. I think
All
we
right.
just lay it back on the table.
I'm not trying to scare people, but if it did come in here, at least you had notice. All right. Anyone further?
Just a motion laid on the table.
All right. So motion that this
Second.
is laid on the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
9 is also CPA.
No, the same thing. It was just, it gotta go hand in hand.
All right. So
9 is actually the reason it went to finance, because we knew we were having that discussion, and we know we voted on all the projects in finance, so the
refer-
finance didn't ask for the question to go to finance, the city council chose it.
And I'll,
So, hold on. So, is 9 also going to stay on the table, or we're going to send
Yes.
it to finance? All right.
Just to keep
So
it
just
for,
leave it.
yeah.
Keep it together.
Yeah.
No, send it to finance?
No, we're keeping the other one on
Okay,
the table.
okay. So, no action on that one. And then you have 10, which is going to be no action because that's still waiting.
okay.
Mr. President,
Yeah.
I can make a motion to revisit 3, 4, and 5 to remove from the table.
Motion
Second.
to take up 3, 4, and 5 as a package. All those in favor?
All right.
All opposed?
And Mr. President, under a motion of inquiry, the ordinance that has been debated with the Schedule A changes is not on the agenda this evening. And it was held up after Councilor Jordan mentioned a Mass General Law which said we needed to do 2 votes.
Yeah.
And so is it on the agenda this evening?
So, what is there is the vacation leave, additional staff, and professional days, which is what I have in front of me is the ordinance for that.
I was reading these 3 things as legal. This is the actual ordinance
These are the
out of the
ordinances.
ordinance committee.
Yeah,
Okay.
these are them.
And make a motion that we proceed to the final reading of the ordinance.
All right, so
Second that.
motion is to go to the final reading, which would be I always forget it at the end there. Passage be ordained. Motion that the passage be ordained. Is that your motion?
Mr. President?
Yep.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, and Counselor Anderson Burgos is going to abstain. So motion that the passage be ordained. That's where we left off. Counselor Jordan.
When you're ready, Mr. President, like, under discussion briefly.
All right, so that's where we are. Everyone on the same page? I know this has been confusing, but we're trying to catch up.
Mr. President,
Yep,
if I
Counselor-
could, and I
Counselor
think I know where this is going, which I'm fine with procedural discussion, but there is no discussing of the final debate of the final reading.
No, not in the final reading. It's the procedure would be.
That's fine.
debated.
I'm good with that. I understand.
You wanted to
that.
rephrase that as a point of order?
Yes.
Would that be, make it better? Okay, point of order and point of just clarification, too.
Okay, Counselor Jordan.
All right. I wanted to address new information that's come to light. Over the last couple of days, there was another legal opinion, which, by the way, we had a legal opinion from 2 meetings ago that said certain people could vote, told that person they could vote, and then it turned out that legal opinion apparently wasn't accurate because now we see what we're seeing now. So just putting that out there. So now let's go to legal opinion number 2, which is groundbreaking in its scope, sobering to say the least, Mr. President. I object to, one, there was a recent request from the mayor, and I don't object to him making a request, but I totally object to this new legal opinion that's circulating behind the scenes that talks about the votes required under our rules to have a 2/3 vote. As you know, under the rules 8K, this vote requires a 2/3 majority for adoption. First thing is, the law department adds words to the rule in 8K that do not exist. Let me read 8K. Motion that legal form be ordained. That's what we're voting on right now. By a 2/3 supermajority of the full council. The full council. How many people are on the full council? 13. Not 12, not 11, not 10, not all the way down to 7. Fill in the blank number. There's a legal opinion actually floating around saying if somebody don't show up, if they don't vote, you could actually pass this within 4. I'm just making it crystal clear that is not allowed. Crystal clear, okay? Voting in a recorded vote. Now, if there was any ambiguity, this council, in its fortuitous nature, has a definition section to its rules. It's found at 1A3, and I quote, all votes of the council or any of its committees requiring a 2/3 or supermajority shall require the same supermajority of the entire membership. As if full wasn't clear, let the word entire be extra clear. Okay, it's not 12 and 8-4. And the reason the council, Mr. President, just for memory's sake, for some of our newer members and for the listening audience that did not have that did not allow that in the past, and we've always shut that door, is we never wanted gamesmanship in this council where 7 people show up and then the vote is 2/3 because it's 5-2. No, we don't do that. All hands on deck, everybody votes. And you're supposed to vote unless you have a conflict of interest, okay? Everybody's required to vote. So there's not, well, I couldn't make it, so now the total goes down and we keep going with the games. That's 1A3, that's Rule 8K. So I would ask that whatever this vote is, I have no idea how it's going to turn out, somewhat of a guess, but I would ask that the chair uphold the longest tradition of what we mean by the full council and the entire membership. Not president voting and all this other stuff. I've sat in this chamber where we had things that we had 10 of us in the room and the vote had to go 10-0 when we had a 15-member council. I've seen things got defeated here 9-1, 9-2. That's been this council. That's our rules. Always has been, in my opinion, always should be. So, thank you, Mr. President.
Hey, Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I guess just procedurally, Mr. President, I think we all got a copy of the legal opinion that was just mentioned by Kevin, but I don't see it on our agenda.
It's item number 12, I believe.
Well, just point of order, Joe, I hear you, but that says letter for legal opinion. So that references the mayor's letter, does not reference the legal opinion itself. So that is not before us, to the best of my knowledge. But I'm just gonna, well, it's not there. But I'm gonna ever so briefly continue because I'm not gonna pretend that the legal opinion doesn't exist. I just want to follow up what Kevin just said, Mr. President. and reference in the legal opinion in case there's any discrepancy, because maybe people reading this would say, well, you know, I heard what the prior speaker said, but, you know, there is state law. And you'll notice in the legal opinion at the third paragraph under standard, and, you know, state law is pretty tough to overcome. I think we pretty much adhere to it. I think all of us do. And when you read that paragraph, it says MGL Chapter 4, Section 6, and it says there, wherever action by more than a majority of the city council is required, action by the designated proportion of the members thereof present and voting thereon in a city having a single legislative board, like Holyoke, shall be in compliance with such requirement. The problem with that editing of Section 6 of Chapter 4, the very top of it says, unless their observance would involve a construction inconsistent with the manifest intent of the lawmaking body. Now, so that's some selective editing by the writer of that opinion. Well, the manifest intent of the body is right here on our rules, updated June 21st, 22. The manifest intent was just quoted by the prior speaker. All votes of the council or any of his committees requiring a 2/3 or more supermajority shall require that same supermajority of the entire membership. Our membership is 13. 2/3 is 9 votes. I'm just amazed that this legal opinion cuts out part of that Section 6 of Chapter 4 of state law. I'm happy to provide a copy of this to anybody. I'm just going to make one other small point, Mr. President. It is not my, and I said this before, but now we have members of the city here, but I know they pay attention, but whether they heard me before, I don't know. In general, Mr. President, I support this notion. I support the intent of the orders, and I support the intent of the ordinances, and I support city employees. What is unprecedented here in my short time is the procedural way we went about this by not having this taken up in ordinance committee, as 99.9% of all of the laws in this city are done. There's an order. It goes to the ordinance committee. The ordinance committee discusses it and then refers it back with a vote one way or the other. Well, that didn't happen. It was just put on the table right before us, skipping the ordinance committee. Procedurally, I don't think that's a fair way to go about it. And because of that, we've had multiple discussions on the floor here that have caused very lengthy meetings that I think are unnecessary. So it's my hope that we'll not pass this tonight, that we'll take a vote to reconsider our action, and we'll send it to ordinance committee for a fair hearing. Thank you.
Anyone further on Councilor McGivern?
I'm going to make a motion to suspend the rules, take up item number 12 for the purpose of allowing the city solicitor to explain the opinion to us.
I'll second that.
So motion is to go out of order to item 12 and take that up as well. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Item 12, communication from the mayor. Honorable councilors, I've been following the city council meetings regarding proposed ordinance changes and some of the procedural questions that have come up during these meetings. Based on the fact that city council rules were updated June 21st, 2022, I asked the legal department for an opinion on what is required procedurally for the ordinance to be passed in city council. The opinion is attached as a communication from me, and that's from the mayor. And
Mr. President, the legal opinion attached to the mayor's letter is addressed to who?
It is addressed, the legal opinion is Dear Mayor Garcia.
Okay, so the mayor submitted it after getting the opinion from the law department?
Yep.
Thank you.
So motion is to allow legal to speak on this. Turn it over to the city solicitor.
Good evening, counselors. I'm Jane Mantaleski. I am fairly new to the law department here in the city of Holyoke, and I believe this is my first time being here in front of you all. So thank you for having me. So I'm happy to discuss the legal opinion. It was a collective effort by the law department, by the various solicitors in the law department. And I did do a bulk of the research, so I feel confident to speak on this tonight regarding this opinion. I do appreciate both Councilor Jordain's and Councilor Bartley's comments and concerns. And I believe when you look at your recently revised rules and order, or council rules, when you read that that rule with respect to voting, let me just make sure I have the reference here, Article 8, Paragraph K, you are looking at language that in any event conflicts with the definition that Councilor Jordain and Councilor Bartley just mentioned. When you are looking at an ambiguous or conflicting document, then where do you go next? I go to state statute, I go to case law, I go to Robert's Rules of Order, which your council rules also speaks about. And when I looked at that, and when the law department looked at that, there is specific references to when there is an ambiguity or you're just referring council, right? Then you have to look at the qualification that they add, the qualifications that are added. In this one, on your paragraph K of Article 8 of your new rules, it says full council voting. So then the question is, well, what does that mean? So when you take a look at it and you look at the Robert's Rules of Order, you look at the case law, and you look at the statutes, the only reasonable interpretation that the law department could decipher was that that would be the full council present and voting. So those councilors present and voting. You can see this ingrained throughout case law, which was mentioned in the legal opinion for you to review. You can see this same language in Robert's Rules of Order, which again, the City Council has adopted. And you have also seen it, you can also see it in the statute that Councilor Bartley was so gracious enough to reference a minute ago. When you look at all of these things, again, there's no other reasonable interpretation when you have an ambiguous situation or a conflicting situation such as these rules. I would like to mention that after finishing this opinion, I wanted to continue on and make sure that the law department gave the best opinion we could to the mayor. And I did stumble upon a more recent case from 2012 that discussed when you have a procedural rule, specifically a city council procedural rule such as these, which conflicts with the language of a statute, such as Mass General Laws, Chapter 4, Section 6, as Councilor Bartley referenced. And that case made specific reference and specifically held that when you have a city council rule, it is to note that it is merely a guidance system for the council. However, it is not to be superseded, or that rule does not supersede statute. And in here, the statute is abundantly clear that when you have action by wherever action by more than a majority of city council is required, such as a 2/3 vote, that means action by a designated proportion of the members thereof present and voting shall be in compliance with that. while I do think that if the council should see fit that it really does want to designate 2/3 of the council to vote on any sort of matter, to pass a matter, then they should do so through their ordinance so that can be protected by the Home Rule Amendment. However, at this point, when you have a city council rule that, again, is merely procedural, that will not trump a statute which is clear and conflicting. Thank you. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Questions? Counselor Jordan first.
First of all, Counselor, you've worked for us for how long now?
I'm an attorney, and I thought you meant counselor like these. I'm like, sorry.
No. How long have you worked for the City of Holyoke examining the rules and procedures of the Holyoke City Council?
Thank you, Counselor Jordan. I've actually been here 4 months, but I've been practicing for 15 years.
4 months. Okay.
Decorum?
Hold on.
4 months. What?
Everyone? Counselor Jordan.
Okay. I've been here 26 years.
I've been practicing for 15.
All right, let's not go back and forth on resumes. I want to know the opinion.
My apologies, Mr. President.
Okay. 26 years, I've actually seen how this works. We've studied this extensively, well before this legal opinion. Next question, are you aware that our charter is part of the Acts of 1896?
I'm aware that
And you're aware that that's a state law?
Did you
adopted by the legislature?
Would you like me to answer it,
Hold
sir?
on. If you're going to ask a question, let her answer. Just let her answer.
Whoa, I'm sorry. Is that how we're allowed to speak to city employees?
Absolutely.
Why?
Watch the tone. All right, everyone, enough. A question was asked if she has looked at the charter.
I have, yes, Counselor Jordan.
Okay, and you're aware that that's part of the Acts of 1896?
I don't have the specific date of the enactment, but I will have full confidence that you do.
Okay, great. So you're saying then, therefore, that we who govern our own internal affairs under the charter is inconsistent with a state law?
If the charter made reference to this requirement, then I would say that that would be under the Home Rule Amendment. Counselor Jordan, as an attorney, you would know that under that rule, the ordinances are allowed to be more specific than the statute when you have a Home Rule Amendment. However, this is not an ordinance. This is not within the charter. This is a procedural rule.
First of all, you're aware that our procedural rules are governed under our powers under the charter, which were adopted by the Massachusetts legislature?
Would you like me to reference the case so you can take a look at it, Counselor Jordan?
You're so far afield, I don't need your citations.
Hold on. Well, we're asking questions with regards to an opinion.
Okay. Did you read the definition section of our rules cited at A13?
I have.
Okay. And did you read what the definition is?
I did.
Okay. And what's your opinion of the wording that says all votes of the council or any of its committees requiring a 2/3 or more supermajority shall require the same majority of the entire membership?
That it conflicts with your language in Rule 8 or Paragraph 8, Section K.
How does that conflict? And what is the ambiguity in 8K when the language at 8K3 says, motion that the legal form be ordained by a 2/3 supermajority of the full council voting in a roll call vote?
Voting,
right,
That's
in a
your
roll call
difference.
vote.
So if you
What's
had,
ambiguous about that?
okay, so if you have your entire membership, that includes everybody, abstaining, present, not present, voting or not voting.
Right.
Your qualification on the rule with respect to the supermajority in, again, I want to make sure I reference it correctly, Article 8, Section, or Paragraph K, is voting. It has a qualification in there, and under Robert's Rules of Order, when you have that qualification, that's what you have to utilize. And I understand, Counselor Jordan, that you may disagree with the law department's opinion. That does not make it incorrect.
You guys are almost always incorrect, is my point. I've proven that time and time again. Let me ask you about another legal opinion. Didn't your law department 1 month ago give a legal opinion that said there was no conflict on this vote?
So they
I
were
was not a
correct
part
when
of
I
that
had to
opinion.
resign, right?
Hold
They
on.
were correct when I had to resign? That's when they were correct?
Hold on. Counselors.
You can take that up with them.
Hey, counselors, we are on trying to get information from a legal opinion.
This is the same law department, isn't it correct? That this is the same law department that made a legal opinion 4 weeks ago that said there was no conflict of interest?
You would have to speak to that specific city solicitor.
Well, your boss is
today.
sitting right there. You guys do all these decisions as a group, do you not?
Not
Isn't
all
that your
of them,
testimony?
No.
Hold on.
Doesn't have to be grilled,
Hold
Todd.
on.
These are questions. I'm sorry if the questions are too hard, but you're
They're
sitting
not
here-
hard at all. I'm happy to answer all of
Right,
them.
I'm going to stop it right now.
Are,
There are questions with regards to the legal opinion. That is that.
okay. Now, my next question. Are you aware of the practical application of these rules? And did you take that into consideration, how these rules have been working for the last 100 years?
I think that if you are so concerned with this being a law within the city of Holyoke, then you should have it enacted by ordinance.
We don't, tell me what council in Massachusetts, has its internal rules adopted by ordinance?
I'm not saying your internal rules. I'm saying with respect to voting and the requirements for passage of ordinances. I'm not talking about your internal rules and your guidance. If you would like to talk about that, there are also rules that were recently just talked about in the SJC with respect to decorum.
Right.
And that was said that regardless of the city council rules, the state constitution says that you have a right of free speech. So it didn't matter with respect to those city council rules.
Right, so obviously you read that decision, which, by the way, I have on the agenda for later, so you would not be certainly upset by my free speech right now as I'm asking
100%.
you.
That's why I'm asking you questions,
Wonderful.
answering your questions.
So therefore, my question is, can you cite any other council in Massachusetts that has its rules on voting that we have that are in an ordinance as opposed to its own rules of its council like we do?
If you would like me to look at that, I can, but I'm happy to tell you that I work for the city of Holyoke, and so I look at the city of Holyoke's ordinances and rules.
Yes, which is, okay, I'll go back to my point of order because I'm going to get into comment. This is absurd.
So next was Counselor Bartley.
Okay, well, hi, welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
Absurd.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I didn't say anything. You got to have a little humor when you're
Oh,
Irish,
no,
right?
I'm sorry. Didn't hear you.
So, could you just remind me of your first name, please? I'm sorry.
Jane.
Jane, thank you, Jane.
Yes, no worries.
All right. Jane, wow. Just the deciphering and the slice and dicing. So when I read, I'm going to go back to A1, A3, all votes of the city council, 2/3 or more supermajority shall require the same supermajority, all votes. And then you say there's ambiguity between when it says all votes and voting in a record. You're telling me that's ambiguous.
I'm saying that those two state, the definition section is ambiguous or is conflicting with the, again.
So all votes.
The Article 8, paragraph K.
So what you're telling me for the record is conflicting, but I think I heard ambiguous because when I read section 6, or chapter 6, section 4, unless their observance would involve a construction inconsistent with the manifest intent of, now that's important, manifest intent. It's been the practice of this body for decades, going 1, 2, 3 city council presidents here with 26, 6, and 6 years of experience, where it's been 2/3 has been of the membership, of the whole membership. Is that not taken into account?
I do understand what you're saying, and I believe that under your prior rules that were from 2017, December, I believe, that it was very clear with respect to that, to the voting, that it required the entire membership. The ambiguity here is not the word votes with respect to in that definition section, but it's with respect to it stating the entire membership, which would include present, not present, abstaining, voting, not voting, and then your qualification in paragraph 8, section K, I hope I'm saying that again, right, or section, that the passage be done via voting, or have the qualification of voting.
One minute. So when I read 8K in total, motion to pass the first reading by a majority of the full council. Motion to pass the second reading by a majority of the full council. Motion that the legal form be ordained by two-thirds supermajority of the full council. Then it goes on to say voting in a recorded roll call vote. So we as a practice always have voice votes for the first and second readings. We always have a recorded vote for the vote to put into ordinance. So when you read this, motion that the legal form be ordained by two-thirds supermajority of the full council, that is the exact same language as the first two. And then it says upon recording upon recording is the actual vote, the ayes and nays. That's all that says. I think your interpretation is, well, I don't agree with it, but I don't even know if it's fair or reasonable, frankly, when you take into account that you're really parsing the word votes and voting. You're really parsing it to get to the conclusion that I take it is what's wanted. And I think as I said, I think we would have got there anyhow through regular order. I guess I'm going to have to stop this, and ultimately we're going to have to get a point of order from the chair, because I think this is, you know, I don't know if our rules change that drastically from 2017 to 2022 to really get into this differentiation between the word votes and voting. I think you're really slicing it so onion thin that it makes it a little bit unfair to us. So I don't think what we did is ambiguous. I don't think state law, in this case, trumps what we have here. I think our rules state that it's two-thirds of majority. And I would defer to any of the three city council presidents that have been here for a while. That how did they ever rule? They ruled it was always two-thirds of the entire body. So I appreciate you being here, but I disagree respectfully. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor, and I do appreciate your candor. Thank you.
Next was Councilor Murphy Ramboletti.
Thank you. For the record, I've never heard anyone speak to Councilor Bissonnette in this way. I'm sorry. And I remember when there was a legal opinion that I didn't agree with about Girls Inc., and I sent multiple emails trying to say why I disagreed, but I didn't insult the law department, and I didn't insult everyone else who's sitting in council chambers. And, you know, to be honest, if this, because this is a work environment, right? Like, we work here, they work here. And so, if someone screamed at me the way that just happened in a work environment, like at my full-time job, I would file a complaint for a hostile work environment.
File it.
Don't talk to me like that. I'm not talking to you. Don't talk to me like that. I'm not talking to you.
Councilor Murphy Ramboletti has the floor.
I'm not. Oh, you want me to?
Yes.
Councilors,
Please do.
councilors.
You are unreal, man.
Councilors, please.
Pat yourself on the back, dude.
Go. Councilor Murphy Ramboletti has the floor.
Go ahead.
All right. Councilor.
I'm done because I didn't want to fight and have a little temper tantrum. Thank you.
All right. Councilor Givner has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would definitely echo that. I think some behavior in the chambers is definitely uncalled for. I manage to say what I need to say without screaming at anyone, and I always try to make sure not to be completely offensive to people. Definitely not on purpose. Free speech is important. There's definitely a big difference between our tone or our tonal etiquette. I have to agree with Councilor Murphy-Ramboletti. Like, it's definitely not appropriate to outright attack one another. But, you know, we're from different places and different times, and as you well have heard, there are people in this chamber who have been here for 20 some odd years, so they must know better. I would like to also point out that this is not the first time where we have discrepancies, not just with the law department specifically, you know, in reference to our charter or our ordinances, but sitting on the ordinance committee, we see a lot of language that doesn't make sense. So, and I've definitely seen this with zoning, which is why our planning department is often trying to figure out how to clean up the zoning, because there's a lot of zoning issues where like one zone will say one thing and another zoning portion will say something else, and they completely conflict one another. So that being said, I don't think that whispering about how incompetent the law department is appropriate. They have a big job. Our city has been understaffed for a very long time, and it's not their fault. It's happening all over the city. We have a lot of new staff members all over the city who are really pulling some serious weight right now, and you're very much appreciated. I'd like to add that if our zoning language doesn't make sense and our ordinance language sometimes doesn't make sense, then I'm just going to go ahead and guess that sometimes our legal language is not matching up. So I appreciate the opinions this evening. I realize that unfortunately this may or may not be taken up right now. If it is, I'm for it, because I see in black and white. And what I just heard is language that says voting members present, you know. So I'm sorry, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not trying to be. But I think, you know, this merits more discussion, you know, in a lot of places in our city, in all kinds of language. So to just sit here on the attack as if there's one department is the only department having a hard time figuring out how to get the city to run more smoothly, you know, I commend you. I appreciate you. And I appreciate all the new department heads and staff members who are really digging in their heels, cleaning up piles of paperwork that have been sitting on desks since the 60s, that people who have been on the council didn't write orders to make sure they cleaned up before now. So again, I really appreciate you, and I really hope that we can all have a little more decorum, even though free speech says we don't have to. I'm not going to suddenly start attacking everyone. Thank you very much.
Next was Councilor Vacan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to make a few points. One is that when we reorganized these rules that were reviewed for this opinion, we did not change any of the language in the last revision. And prior to that, under the ordinance voting, we just eliminated 2 of the steps because we used to have a longer and more complex process for passing an ordinance. But in neither case did we change the language. And I would just like to note, in terms of the argument that things are in conflict or they're not clear, we had in this past year a debate and discussion in committee relative to changing that very rule. And that rule was affirmed and left as stated in our rules. Now, we have been advised by legal in the past that where state statute exists, our rules can be more strict, but cannot be more lenient than the state law would say. And that is advice we have received in the past that, to my best knowledge, we have followed. And since I've been on the council, as was referenced by some other speakers, when we had a 15-member council, our past practice was always that 10 votes were required for any ordinance change. And since we've gone from 15 to 13, every ordinance change required a minimum of 9 votes for that ordinance to pass. And that has been a very clear, well understood practice on this council for decades. And no changes, to my knowledge, have been made to the rules that change that wording, because this was a reorganization of the rules for flow and making sense of them instead of trying to jump all over the place seeing them. And so I appreciate the opinion that was put forth by our law department, but I just take it as an opinion. But I very strongly disagree with the opinion as a matter of practice. It's turning all of the votes that we've taken relative to ordinance changes up until today really on its head. And I just think that it's, I think it's unfortunate. And I don't think it's going to help the body come to better decisions either. Thank you.
Counselor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Excuse me. I guess the question was asked, and I'd be happy to address it the best I can about ruling on points of orders and ruling on how to interpret. And what was in the heyday of my tenure as president, we often referred to Rule 35. And I remember, I don't remember the date, but I remember the chair of the Ordinance Committee, City Councilor at the time, Mark Joyce, came up with something that kind of put Rule 35 into the perspective that I always followed. And that was language in the charter, that the reason we, somewhere along the line, adopted Rule 35, which talks about, a lot of it talks about is money, but it talks about financial appropriations, transfers, resolutions, and ordinances, is multiple readings by the City Council on the same evening. I use this a lot with finance, referred out of committee, even though we don't count receiving it as the first reading. I've always argued perhaps it should be. But when a transfer order comes in, a request under the chair of the finance's name, but we all know it's for the mayor, that goes into committee, comes out of committee, and we attempt to pass 2 readings. If we pass or attempt to pass 2 readings on the same evening, we have to have a two-thirds vote of the body itself, of the membership itself, and that's the way we've been doing it. However, if we have a majority vote, we just simply lay it on the table and wait 2 weeks, although we only have to wait 3 days, to pass, which is what is Mass General Law, by a simple majority. And that's the way we've been doing it in for appropriations and transfers for many years now. And it was Councilor Joyce, who I remember vividly, brought that to the attention of the body as the chairman of the ordinance, and he was referring to, at the time, ordinance changes. There are certain ordinance changes that I've always thought deserve and require that 2/3, and I don't know where supermajority came from, because that's a whole different terminology. 2/3 is 2/3. Supermajority is when the petition is filed by voters and residents who up it even from 2/3 to a higher majority of the council itself. But that's the way I always treated the 2/3 part of the ordinance. It was about the readings, not about the final vote, but only if the readings were all to take place in the same evening. Tonight is not the same evening. We've taken readings now for 3 city council meetings, including placing the final reading on the table after Councilor Jordan cited Mass General Law itself. I don't know how you're going to rule on this point of order. I'll defer to you, Mr. President. But regardless of the point of order, I did learn from our former city clerk, Jimmy Shea, that the final vote is the final vote according to law, no matter what we say in the chambers. And there is precedent to that. I don't remember what Mass General Law he referred to, but he said if it's there, it's there. If it's not there, it's not there. But I think we need the opinion from the law department, not to tell us what the final vote is going to be, but to tell us transparency so that we understand before we take a vote what the outcome might be. And I think we do need to clarify a lot of this, because the rules I remember never said all ordinances require a 2/3 vote, because we do handicap parking by ordinance. To put up a handicap parking sign, and I realize it's almost always unanimous, should not require a 2/3 vote. There are ordinances that just makes no sense that we elevate it to 2/3 vote. So to me, it's the readings on the same evening, but that's just the way I remember it.
Next was Councilor Maldonado Velez.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this whole thing is kind of frustrating, to be honest. I think we did have this discussion last year in Charter and Rules. Councilor, I believe it was Councilor Anderson Burgos, and perhaps Councilor Lisi had put in an order to sort of change the language to make it clear that if it's not 2/3, basically what we're discussing now, that if not everyone can vote, then the 2/3 majority lowers, depending on how many of those are eligible to vote. The discussion that came from them, and why I'm frustrated, mostly with myself at this point, right now, today, is because of the time. We didn't ask for legal opinion. We're still new, a couple months in, didn't really understand what legal opinion was, how to get it. And we sort of relied on the opinion of the other counselor that just had a sort of outburst in this meeting, which was saying what he was saying right now. And the same counselor literally said last week that he looks at legal opinions from 30 years ago and references them because we have great solicitor's office, and then we get a legal opinion that does not align with what they want. All of a sudden, we have these attacks on our people in our city and all this stuff. It's annoying, it's frustrating, and if the legal opinion is not what you believe in, I'm sorry. I mean, last year, or was it about a year ago, a year and a half ago, we had a legal opinion about like the eligibility of our members, and it's like we had to do that, we had to follow that legal opinion. And honestly, this whole thing is embarrassing, it's ridiculous. I'm sorry that I'm not in the chambers there with everyone else, but let's vote on the actual matter and the legal opinion, whatever rebuttal you want to have, whatever outside counsel, because apparently our solicitor's office went from being the best last week to all of a sudden being one of the worst, then do that. But like, don't belittle anyone that's in our city, and let's vote on the issue that we've been discussing for the past month and a half at least, because this is getting embarrassing. So I just need to say that, and also, I guess as a reminder to myself and fellow counselors, new counselors in particular, let's get legal opinions for everything, and then not complain. But one thing though, if we want legal opinions about stuff, which every meeting we have a legal opinion about something, let's also then not complain that they're not returning stuff with us on time. We only wanted to work 40 hours, but then we also expect them to work way more than that. Like, let's be honest and let's be real. Like, you got a legal opinion. If you disagree with it, that's fine, but you don't have to belittle people. This is not what we're here for. We're here to make what's best for the city and have other ways to rebuttal that and process that, but like, this is not it. This is not how it should be. With that said, on the matter of the vote, I'm agreeing with it. I hope that the vote happens in the next couple of minutes so that our city employees can actually go home and enjoy their freaking night. Thank you.
All right, anyone further? Councilor Jordan.
Yep. So first of all, a couple points under the point of order, Mr. President. There is no ambiguity at all on this rule. This is all completely conjured up by the law department, who I personally think, as the #1 recipients of this additional vacation, absolutely, I think, questions their being biased or unbiased in this matter. They have been absolutely pushing for this since the beginning of all of this. They've got these legal forms turned around in 2 weeks, yet for CPA, it takes months to get things back. I'm sorry if people confuse disrespect for harsh questions or difficult questions or straightforward questions. That's how I ask it. Not meaning to be disrespectful. If I was disrespectful to you, I apologize. But I will tell you this. I will ask anybody direct questions, and I will ask tough questions in here because I know these rules. And I have sat here and watched these things time and time again. And with respect to what our former president said, with respect to the timing, this is not an issue of timing. It's an interpretation of the question, full council and the entirety of the membership. And our rules are crystal clear. There is no ambiguity here. The fact that the law department is interjecting ambiguity into this is inappropriate. There is no ambiguity. And I will tell you, if you have anybody who is impartial, read that. They would not come to any notion to even generate an opinion like that, Mr. President. All votes of the council. This is in the definitions section. All votes of the council or any of its committees requiring a 2/3 or more supermajority shall require that same supermajority of the entire membership. It's crystal clear. And yet they say that it's not the entire membership. It's something less than the entire membership. We have been crystal clear for decades on that, and yet we have this opinion from left field. And I would ask the president to uphold our long-standing rules on this, to uphold the exact wording of the rules, which say in 8K, the full council. Why would we say full council if it didn't mean the full council? And if there was any unclarity as to what the full council meant, the definition specifically says the entire membership. I'll leave to Councilor Bartley the point about the applicability of chapter 4. I think he hit that point. I think that's crystal clear. That deals with any refutation on that point. I've also cited the city charter. This is, to me, absurd that we're even having this conversation. And for when people are trying to get to their goals and objectives through these manipulations of the rules, as someone who cares dearly, who has given 26 years of my life, not one, 26 years of my life to this institution, if I lose a vote, hey, it wouldn't be the first vote I've lost. But I want to see the rules applied fairly and evenly, and that's what the taxpayers deserve. That's what the residents deserve. Because to do other than that questions the integrity of the institution, that this is nothing but just manipulation. And that's exactly what is going on here, and I'm calling it out, manipulation of the rules, when on its very face, it says crystal clear what it is. And I will call truth by its name. And if you're offended by that, you'll be offended many more times in the future. Thank you, Mr. President. And I would ask that you uphold the exact wording of these rules. Thank you.
Councilor Jenny Rivera.
I want to start off by apologizing to you. As a female, that was so disrespectful to our taxpayers, which are right there on the camera. I apologize to you guys as well. I continue to say this. I don't even want to say what the real word I should be saying, but it's so disrespectful. Everything that happens in these chambers. They're giving a legal opinion, which we asked for, I believe, and here she's getting belittled. I don't care if she has 4 months. I don't care if you have 20 years. It doesn't make a difference. Her job is just as good as yours. My job is just as good as anybody here that's been here 20-something years. We're supposed to be voting on our city employees. That's why we're here. Voting on what they deserve. They've been working hard for it. But I believe the real vote here is because it didn't go to ordinance, and the ordinance committee did not get to vote on it. So let's all get pissed off about it and want to blame everybody for it. Our city employees deserve it. So if the majority vote's not here, again, on the left side of me, didn't they bring it up? Because that's why one of ours had to leave, because it was brought up. So let's do our jobs. We got voted by the taxpayers. We got voted for them to do our job. Are we doing our job? No, because a lot of counselors here like to dig dirt on people. Dig dirt. I'm not here to dig dirt on anybody. I'm here to work. That's what they voted me on here, to do work for the city. That's what I want to do, is work for the city. I don't want to come here and be here 4 or 5 hours on the same discussion over and over just because you won't get your way. So we should all be voting. And she's not the only one that got disrespected. Since I've been here, if people are going to be voted and coming to take their time, their free time, not even getting paid for, to be on a committee, the way they get talked to, maybe you should go back on the meetings, listen to them, and see how people get talked to. That's what's embarrassing. After all our meetings, go on Facebook, go on social media. That's what makes this, is social media, how we are talked about. I'm glad that's not me. They don't mention my name. My name was just mentioned because of Izzy and I, Rivera's. Even though I wanted to do it for free, didn't bother me. I was like, I worked for this city. I'll work for them. I'll do whatever I can for my city for free. And it was still an issue. That's when I was all over social media. So why don't we just do our jobs, stop being disrespectful to the divisions, the departments. It's just so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. She's here trying to do her job, just like we're all trying to do our jobs. And it's not about screaming at them. They get screamed at. Everybody gets screamed at. And it really needs to be stopped. And always, well, we've been here 20-something years. Well, I don't care how many years you've been here. We're all here to learn. And obviously, if the 20-something years people have been in these chambers, have done their job, and have done their job correctly, Holyoke would not be in where we're at today. So let's do our jobs and stop disrespecting people.
Counselor Israel Rivera.
I just wanted to say sorry to Jane. I mean, like I get heated sometimes. I don't blatantly. I mean, I get loud with my fellow colleagues, I guess. But I don't know, man. If I was watching TV and I saw my mom get yelled at like that, I'd probably be here waiting outside. Like, damn, dude. Like, why you gotta be so? I mean, but that's part of the game. Some people get animated. Some people get heated. They talk with their hands. You know what I mean? Some people do that. But I was taught that this is not the place for this. This is what, like, if it was me, I'd look like the angry black man on the Holyoke Sun tomorrow, right? Like, I was on the Holyoke Sun for the audit, and they weren't even talking about the audit. They were talking about me. I'm sitting here, and it's appalling that we're able to raise our. I mean, to me, again, amongst colleagues, we're conversing, we're debating. That is the thing. But to a city employee that's here wasting their, coming out here and doing their job, I apologize. That's the main piece for me. And then the second piece is, this is gamesmanship. Someone said something about not including certain rules because they didn't want gamesmanship. This is it right here. This is it. This is where it's at. You're seeing it live, gamesmanship. Thank you.
Counselor Vacan.
I'm all set, Mr. President. I think
okay.
I've made the points that I wanted to make.
Okay. Anyone further on procedure? Okay. So now it comes down to me. With that, the mayor reached out to our legal department and asked a question. They looked into it, provided a legal opinion that was signed off by not acting, but our city solicitor, Lisa Ball. So, Lisa, you had a chance to review this and sign off on it, saying that you believe this to be the opinion in the rule. I do. Okay. So, standard procedure by this council is if you want a legal opinion, you ask for it, and you get it from the legal department, and that's what we do. I understand that what we're saying is prior ways of what we did stuff, when it was 15 members or 13 members, this is what we did. And I can go back to several examples where we've done stuff that we thought we were doing right, and then legal opinion comes across and says you're not doing it correctly. Or we believe it this way. It's a legal opinion. It's not designed to be biased or unbiased or however what they're saying. It's their opinion. And last time I checked as an attorney, I take an oath that if I give an opinion or I do something legally, I'm complying with the laws of Massachusetts. I'm not doing it for my own internal personal self or anything else. I'm following the rules and procedures set by Mass General Law. And we do get heated. We do say things. The Supreme Court now says you can do that. And you can actually swear, which I'm asking in these chambers to everyone else that we don't do that. Yeah, I know what the Supreme Court has now said we can do, but we're better than that. So with regards to that stuff, we get heated, we get passionate. We've done it 1,000 times. We'll do it again. It's not intentional. I've known Councilor Jourdain for more than 26 years.
Yes, I have.
So that does happen if it came across incorrectly. As your president, I am sorry that that happened. Once again, I've known Councilor Jourdain for a long, long time. It's the passion.
That's all it is.
So with regards to that stuff, I think I've said it from my very first time as president as well as finance chair. We got to be better to each other. It does happen. At the same time, when we walk out of here, we all live in Holyoke. We all do the best for it. When I look to the legal department as either president or city council, I'm asking them to research it and give me their best opinion. I didn't ask for this. This came from the mayor because he was noticing some things and he wanted some guidance. That guidance was given. It was provided to us now. So this is what we have before us. Whether or not we've done stuff back in the past, I do know in June, for charter and rules, we specifically debated this up and down, simply because there was concern of, what is a vote, what is not a vote, what is majority, what is not. And then when Councilor Maldonado Velez ultimately gave us the new rules that we have adopted, did that, and I'm not saying it's his fault, did that cause confusion? I don't know. It was back in June that the manifest intent was that we do address this because it was confusing. And we wanted some different ways of doing it. The legal department now has said, this is the issue, and if you want to fix that issue, you have to do it by ordinance. I think that was clear. So in order to avoid ambiguity and everything else, that whether or not we were doing it right in the past or what we're going to do going forward, set it by ordinance. And that alleviates everything before us. So with that, I will always defer to my legal department because that's what we should do. That's what they're hired to do. So with that, if I have to make a ruling, I'm going to defer to what the legal department has said with regards to this, and we'll take our vote. And if they think it's the majority of that is present and that's the way it should be, then that's what I'm going to decide to, is my legal department and their opinion. Are there any questions to that?
Well, Mr. President.
Councilor Jourdain.
Since you did ask if there's any questions about that, and I appreciate it, and I thank you, and I've enjoyed knowing you for at least 30 years. I I would just say, though, in the rule, in your opinion, and you've been here for a long time, you see the words entire membership, you see the words the 2/3, and of course, and again, I'm sorry if this is insulting, but it's not meant that way. But the law department's been shown over the years to have been wrong on quite a number of legal opinions. In fact, we've had law department opinions that reversed other law department opinions. But in my question to you, sir, is, because this has ramifications, not just about this vote, but going forward, that's my concern also, is what do you find ambiguous when it says right there, it's on the entire membership and the full council? Their opinion is their opinion, but your opinion is what, at the end of the day, counts in the ruling of the chair on this issue. And this has always been the way we've done it, entire membership and full council. So that's a major departure. Where is the rule ambiguous to you?
I kind of defer as to what Rule 35 has always meant to me, in the sense of if you try and take it up on the same day, the 2/3 would hold. But when you do second readings and third readings, which we have done for whether it's finance or for this, then that vote majority changes. That's the way I've always seen it. So I think that's kind of what this is looking at, as to is that the procedure that we've kind of not followed or did follow or didn't follow correctly. And I do, as I said, there was examples of this before where we took up things for finance and we received it, referred it to finance, but then when we voted, they said, well, no, this is the first time you're taking it up, that's not how we've always done it. So now procedurally, sometimes you'll hear someone say, motion to receive, adopt, pass the first reading, send to committee, to get around that type of issue for 2/3 or not 2/3 votes when dealing with that stuff. So really, for me, based on what the legal department is saying, because of those type of issues that come up, that I do believe they're addressing an issue that should be addressed going forward. And to answer that first part, has ramifications going forward. Well, no, they've kind of told you, if you set an ordinance, you address it going forward. So our job would be is if we don't like this, which appears that some of us don't, then we have to draft an ordinance, pass the ordinance, and this is no longer an issue. It's moot.
So you're saying, if I understand you correct, is that the rules don't apply unless they're made into an ordinance?
No, okay. No, what I'm saying is based on the legal opinion for the vote for what we have before us, I'm going to side with what they're saying. That's what I'm ruling.
Okay.
And if we want to change that going forward, we'll have to file an ordinance to address that issue. That has been brought before us by our legal department.
Mr. President?
Oh, Councilor Bacon, sorry.
Thank you. I have a question on your point of order. So if I understand what you're saying about the need to create an ordinance, so my question would then be, in order to create that ordinance, if I'm hearing you correctly, we would not need a 2/3 vote. We would simply need a majority vote. Based on what I'm hearing regarding the vote tonight, is that accurate?
No, I think what legal has said, and they're still here, is that if you want 2/3 to represent the full body, you'd have to put that in ordinance. Is that correct?
Thank you, President McGee. I would like to just, because I know there has been a lot of discussion, and so the issue here is that you have a statutory authority which is different than your rules. Your rules cannot trump a statutory authority or be more restrictive of a statutory authority unless they're codified in ordinance under the Home Rule Amendment. So that's the issue here. I'm not saying, in my opinion, the law department's opinion would never be that your rules have no basis in anything. They are definitely applicable to a wide array of things. But when you have situations in which a statute or a constitution, in the case of the freedom of speech issue, when you have something, a state law that's in conflict with a rule of procedure, that rule of procedure cannot trump that statute or that state constitution. It would be different if, again, that was an ordinance under the Home Rule Amendment, which enables the cities and towns to have the authority to make those more restrictive items.
Can we?
So just
Oh, go
to
ahead.
follow up through the president to legal.
Yep.
What I'm understanding from you is the 2/3 rule does not stand up. So that would say to me that future ordinances could be passed with a simple majority.
It's not that the 2/3 rule does not hold up. It's that the 2/3, the language is stated in that statute, Mass General Laws 4, Section 6. When you have more than a majority, then the designated proportion of the members present and voting. So it's not that you don't need the 2/3, it's just that you have the qualification of the present and voting.
So if, I guess my follow-up to that is, what would we need to draft for ordinance form in order to say, to address this issue?
Again, when you get it into ordinance, your ordinance can say entire membership, 2/3 of the entire membership, because then you're an ordinance. But if you're trying to pass the rule, or you're trying to pass an ordinance while you're still under the old rules and old guides, the law department's opinion is that you have to follow the statutory language of the 2/3 voting and present, not just the entire membership.
We have
So
to
that's the
fix that
difference.
going forward.
Right.
So as a practical matter, what would that look like if we're trying to create an ordinance based on your interpretation of the statute? I'm not clear on what you're saying.
So when you decide you want to craft the ordinance, I think you can have the language be specific that says 2/3 of the entire membership. The problem that
I understand that part. My question is, what will we need to do procedurally in order to be able to pass the ordinance?
2/3 present and voting.
Which is what we thought we needed tonight.
No. She's saying to pass, when we file for a new ordinance, we're going to need 2/3 of those present to vote for it, which in the new rule will be 2/3 of the majority, of the full body, the entire body. There, I said it correct. So in order to pass the new ordinance, you're still doing it under this rule to then require the new rule. I understand what you're saying. I got it.
That is what I'm saying, but I'm having trouble seeing the difference between what we're doing tonight and what we would be doing by passing a new ordinance. It feels contradictory to me.
Well, in essence, we're trying to, if we do, I'll follow the order. We're trying to fix the interpretation and then the rule going forward.
And
of
I
what
understand
what
that.
we would like.
You'd be codifying it in ordinance.
Codifying, there we go. I couldn't remember the
And
word.
I understand that, but what I'm trying to understand, just help draw me a picture of, let's, as a theoretical say, we have 10 counselors in the room at the meeting where we want to pass that ordinance. We would have said we need 9 votes out of the 10. You're saying no. You're saying we need, what, 6 votes out of the 10?
So if you have 10 people, city councilors that are here for a meeting at any given time, and you want to pass an ordinance, then you would need 2/3 of those 10 who are there and voting. So not 2/3 of the 13, 2/3 of the 10.
So you're saying that rather than requiring 9 affirmative votes to create a law for the city of Holyoke, we could have 6 people passing a law for the city of Holyoke?
I'm not sure if
Okay,
it's 6 or 7.
I hear what you're saying.
All right, so with that, we're back to the motion to passage be ordained. That's what we're coming back to, because we had our legal interpretation, everyone had their questions. With that, the clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting that the passage be ordained on 3, 4, and 5.
Tommen,
Yes.
Aiken,
No.
Bartley,
No.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
No.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes?
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Puello,
No.
I. Rivera,
Yes.
J. Rivera.
Yes.
8 yeas, 4 nays, and 1 abstain.
Which then that would be of those present, correct? Looking at, okay, so that would carry. We did 10.
I think you're at number 13, no, number 11. Mr.
11?
Now we're on to,
Number 11.
yeah, so public comment was done. We're on to 11, which is
Yeah.
a reappointment of Jeff Trask to
Motion to
emergency
receive
man-
and confirm.
Motion
Confirm.
to
Second.
confirm. Any discussion for Jeff? Great guy, does a great job. So all those in favor, oh, Council Barley.
Yeah, I know we're going to vote unanimously on this. I just want to just have mention a recent conversation I had with Jeff. I sent him a text. I think he got back to me, Mr. President, almost before I texted him. And we're going to work on together possibly an ordinance relative, revamping our ordinance relative to emergency preparedness in terms of just some local neighborhood things. So it was a very refreshing conversation, and it was nice to. And I have to say, the past emergency people, Mr. President, have been very cooperative with me. So I'm not. I just want to point that out as well. The ones that preceded Mr. Trask were great, and as well. But it was a very refreshing conversation, and I look forward to working with them for the next year. Thank you.
Anyone first? So motion is to receive and reappoint for a 1-year term, which expires May 20th, 2024, or May 2024. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? 12, we already took up.
13.
13 is a memorandum of agreement between the City of Holyoke
Finance.
and
Finance.
Finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 14 is the minutes of March 7th, 2023.
Motion to
Receive and adopt.
And just under discussion, just thank
Counselor.
you for numbering the pages.
Thank you.
Motion is
Small,
receive,
but
adopt.
I'm happy about it.
I'm happy about the pages, too.
Thanks, Pete.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 15 is the CBG allocation spreadsheet, so to DGNR? Or
No,
DGNR
it-
recommendation,
Vote.
sorry.
Yeah, that's, yeah, why don't we take, you want to just,
Take it as a package.
yeah,
Staying with,
Take up 22A.
wow, okay. Can we do, you want to do that, Mr. President? Just suspend the rules, take up that and 22A as a package, just for the,
Let me get them both. So 15 is the DGR recommendations for the CBG block grant, and 22 is the Committee on DGNR, who was referred from Alicia Zoller, the recommendations and allocations and the resolution accepting the funds as adopted. It is signed off by Councilor Murphy Ramboletti, Councilor McGivern. Yeah. Yep. So just need one more.
You can sign my name.
The other one. Not you. Sorry, bud.
All right, so take them up as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And this is recommended that be adopted. Under discussion, Counselor Murphy-Ramboletti.
Thank you. So we met on March 7th. And I also was able to attend the Citizens Advisory Committee, which also reviewed these requests and made recommendations as well. There were great discussions. Honestly, it was a very efficient meeting. And we overall tended to agree with the recommendations of the Citizens Advisory Committee. First and foremost, there's a lot of fantastic applications and very worthy organizations who are doing really important work. So I think we all agreed that this was not an easy decision. The city has, I believe HUD approved us for a little over 1.2 million in total. That's what my notes say. And so I think the main differences with us was just the emphasis on domestic violence prevention services. Other than that, it was a great evening, and I'll let my fellow members add anything I missed.
Counselor Barley.
Yeah, thanks. The chair got us out of there about an hour, and I think that's a record, which is always helpful, because we used to have Joe and Pete, remember, we had some battles. So, but bottom line is we reached consensus on all this, and generally it's been my preference to sort of support the Citizens Advisory Committee. But Mr. President, you're very aware that the way the rules work is basically the jurisdiction of the executive of the City of Holyoke to make the decision. I will say I've had pretty collegial relationship with all the mayors relative to this particular issue, or the mayors of which I've had the pleasure to serve. And I just want to point out a couple things where we kind of went off the rails a little. One is, it has always been our position to support
Alianza.
Alianza, yeah, I'm sorry about that. We've always supported that. And for some reason, CAC and the mayor did not. But we fully funded that. And I'd be really disappointed if we didn't fund that, because we always have supported funds for that. Second off, one thing that was very important to me, and it's been very important to me for years, we haven't gotten there yet, but to get proper crosswalks and sidewalks and handicap accessible coming from High Street, connecting to the I-391 interchange and back up to South Street Shopping Plaza. I've said this so many times over the years, I know it's getting repetitive, but when you see mothers with trams and pushing their babies in the roadbed, up High Street, onto Maple Street, cross South Street, it is not the way to do it. And we know that I-391, we've had multiple engineering opinions, that is not Commonwealth property, that is city property. So let us not, that is, the City of Holyoke owns that interchange. That is not the Commonwealth. So it's up to us to figure out how to make that safe. I feel it is ARPA, it is CDBG eligible. Let's now find the willpower to get behind and get this done. And I'm just going to work with the mayor again and his DPW superintendent to do that. One more point, on the Springdale Park spray pad, you'll notice that we significantly cut back what the mayor recommended. Respectfully, we heard from the community development department head, said the funds are not going to be helpful to get the parts because of the various supply chain shortages. But the 175 was right there in the budget, spot on, to demo what they have there now. And so the thinking from the committee, I know I recommend it, is that let's take it out and get the ground prepped so that when they come back next year for funding, or if ARPA funds are available, that we'll take CDBG to dig out that ground and prep the ground for when the installation of the new spray pads that I know are heavily used. I was getting calls last summer because the thing spray pad wasn't operating properly. And so I'm hopeful that, that with, some of the other recommendations, as the chair said, there's so much demand and the resources really aren't there. And I know the other counselors have spoken to that many times over the years. You can't agree more, but we have to work with what we have. And I think the committee did a pretty good job of making recommendations for some really deserving entities. So hopefully we'll support it, and the mayor will too. Thank you.
Councilor Rivera. Oh, Councilor McGivern.
That's fine.
Councilor McGivern first.
Youth first.
All right.
Youth,
all right,
right.
I'll take that. I'll take that.
There you go.
So I guess I had a question. That's the one I had an actual question on, which was like the reasoning behind bringing it down, but Councilor Bartley just answered that. So that would mean that we would have a whole summer where the kids in Springdale area would not have a spray pad to get wet at all. That's technically what it would mean. And then they would have to pay to go to the pool that's up the hill by Fumar, the old Fumar pool, which is now Pouliot Pool. Mm-hmm. And there is no actually getting up there easily. You'd have to walk up the hill and trek and all the other stuff for other people from that area. So, I mean, I get it, but then again, I don't, because the master plan was created like 4 or 5 years ago for Springdale. Like, we're behind on Springdale tremendously. So, like, we just continue to push the buck down the road. And for me, it's the reason why, and no disrespect, Yoni's doing a hell of a job. But at the end of the day, that project that Yoni's pushing forward, that he just raised $2 million within a year and a half, is launching. And you know how much it costs to launch the Springdale Park? About $2.5 million. Almost the same amount of money that he's raised. So it's and again, what's going on up there, it's an awesome project, but so would Springdale be. But like, that's just that piece. And then the other question for me, and I'll reach out to the mayor's office and the school department as well as Alicia, is the 215 for McMahon, right? And Lawrence. Lawrence, I get it. McMahon, I'm on the board for softball. I coach softball, and I went to McMahon. They do need a new park, but they could easily apply for CPA funding too as well, right? There are other opportunities there. They also received ESSER money at the school. They received ARPA money at the schools. So it's like there's a variety of different ways to try to fund that. And then Lawrence School, what are we gonna do if they take Lawrence School offline? We're gonna put like, what's the overall plan for the park in the back of Lawrence School? Will it still be a park? Will that property be sold and then be developed? What is the overall plan? So, like, those are some of the questions I had. I couldn't make it to that meeting because I had another meeting. I actually go to school at that time. But at the end of the day, those are some of the questions I had, and I'll reach out to the mayor myself and Alicia just to get some of the answers to those. But those are some of the questions I wanted to ask.
Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to take a second, too, as Councilor Bartley said, to thank our chair for getting us through the what can be a very long task in a timely fashion. I think the committee worked great, a lot of questions. I think looking, as we always try to do at the Citizens Advisory Committee and the mayor's recommendations, is important. What it comes down to is our recommendations are important, but they're not binding. What it really comes down to is there is $3.8 million in requests. When Councilor Bartley referred to years past, my first block grant hearing was close to $7 million in shared revenue funds from the federal government. And this year, we're getting $1,230,146. Every proposal here has merit. We learned about, Councilor Rivera referred to it, there are things that the mayor is proposing to do with ARPA monies and other monies that are available, which will not be around forever, but, you have to tip your hat to the Community Development Office and to the mayor for understanding and juggling all this and making sense out of it. The most important vote we take this evening, right in the committee report, is the resolution. The resolution allows the mayor to spend these dollars, whether he listens to our recommendations or not, And the equally, or not in dollars, but the equally part of a resolution, which is the Home Investment Partnership Program. This year, we share that for several years now with Spring, Chicopee, Westfield, and Holyoke. And for, I believe, the 5th year in a row, Holyoke is getting the lion's share. We're getting $538,061. The next Chicopee's $327,116, and Westfield's $153,877. So it's like an appropriation. Anything that comes in, this council approves it. The mayor gets to spend it only if we approve it. And I highly recommend, as the chair did, that we adopt that resolution, send our recommendations, and hope the mayor listens to us the best he can.
Anyone further? Councilor Barley?
Yeah, I'll just clarify. I hope I was clear on, yeah, we support this spray park for sure. Just the parts aren't going to be available. And so we wanted to at least get the site prepared. And I think that makes good sense. And that way we could allocate the funds elsewhere. I would also say, just relative to the Poya pool, no one will be turned away. Whether there's a small payment for an annual or whatever it is, the policy has been no one's turned away for lack of financial resources. Now, I will say they might be turned away because I can't get across the street, but that's something else entirely. So I've been saying that for a while, and it hasn't really clicked. But I guess I'll keep saying it at least one more year. And so, and I just want to point out one more thing, Mr. President. This is the first time in my tenure that we didn't fund the neighborhood improvement program. But if you watch the tape, and again, it's only an hour, so actually an hour and 1 minute. If you watch the tape, you heard from the community development department head that the resources are already in place for the applications that they have, and there's plenty more resources for the average number of applications that they usually approve. So they're good to go for this year is the bottom line. So that's why that one wasn't fully funded by, or recommended to be funded by DGR. Thank you.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, I want to thank the chairman, the chairwoman, and the committee that putting this together. I mean, I know it's not easy work, and trying to figure out, where the funds go, and also I think what Alicia said previous years, that sometimes there's money that's allocated that isn't spent, so that can be reallocated to other funds. People are looking for funds down the road, but this is money sometimes that these agencies and programs that sometimes really help them out a lot. So I really appreciate the work and the effort they put into it, to putting these numbers together.
Anyone further? So motion is to receive and adopt the recommendation and resolution accepting the funds. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for it.
Yeah, Mr. President, just a point of order. What we're really doing, we need a roll call really for the home fund.
Home fund.
Right.
That's really
right, and that's
normally we could just I know it's on there, but I'm just
Gotta be signed.
that was just a point of order. So we need a roll call for this.
Yep.
Tommen,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Puello,
Yes.
I. Rivera,
Yes.
J. Rivera.
Yes.
Unanimous.
For your vote, you approve that one. 16, this is the allocation of the CPA fund recommendations.
Motion to receive, refer to committee finance. I do have a question.
Motion
Second.
is received for the finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Question, if I could.
Oh, go ahead.
These are what it looks like. I'm pretty sure Councilor Rivera can confirm this. The projects for this year that are coming to us for our final approval. It's listed as should be from Community Preservation Act Committee recommendations. They took their final vote on each of these projects, and we get to have a say up or down on the project itself. We've been doing this for 4 years. I seem to remember that our representative, usually it's put in an order form under their name before we take, I'm not sure if that's necessary, but I just want to make sure procedurally we're all on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, Counselor Sullivan used to file some, because it just come up to me like we have to act on it. I do believe we have received it as this package before and voted on it.
If we're all comfortable, I'm fine. I just want to clarify it so as not to slow things down.
Counselor?
Yeah, so there's two pieces. There's one, we could file it under my name, but I had them file it themselves. Under the reasoning is that in the last one of the last meetings we had about counselors voting on topics twice, right? Voting in CPA and then voting here at the Fuller Council, which kind of is frowned upon, sounds like, from the last meeting. So I am trying to find clarification as to what my role is on the CPA and not what my role, how to carry out my role in a way where it's not conflicting in the future, because technically no other community has a counselor on the CPA, and we made that requirement ourselves as a council. Not that I'm in a disagreement with it. The only thing is that it makes it difficult and more complex to navigate the situation, especially since I'm hearing now, as of recent, that I shouldn't be voting twice. So I shouldn't vote on their projects there and then come vote on it here.
So Jeffrey just pulled up last March. This is how they sent it and how we approved it. But to be clear, Mike Sullivan, who was our representative at the time, would file orders saying, Scott's Tower, when they need $100,000, and you explain it, and then we'd vote on it. So we've done it.
Yeah, we've done it both ways. I've myself done it too, because that's what they told me in the past.
Yep.
But like, as of recent, I've been trying to navigate how to best go about this, because it kind of makes sense that I shouldn't be voting on the projects in there and then voting on them here.
Well, we do have it here. We acted on it last March this way. Jeffrey pulled it up to confirm it. So still to finance, Councilor McGivern, just to make sure.
Please, yes.
All right,
As long as we're okay, I'm fine with voting on it. It's just.
Well, to finance, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
And 17 is a plaque at Edward Hoyoke's grave.
Motion to receive and refer to the mayor.
Motion is received, referred to the mayor. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Oh, here it is. I lost it. President's report. One, a big thank you to the St. Patrick's Day Committee, all the volunteers, all the award winners, police, fire, everyone. It was a great weekend. It was a great parade. Could have been a little warmer, I guess. But just a great time all around. And everyone that's involved, not only Hoyokers, but people outside who come in here, they just made it a wonderful time. Councilor McGivern has put out the 7th Parade program book, of which everyone should have a copy.
Yep, very nice.
So it's just a great
Thank you,
time. And
Counselor.
thank you to everyone who's involved to make that work. My favorite, having joined the parade committee again, and sitting in that room, they have hundreds of people all over the place. And they call out, Councilor Jordan, progress. Chicopee, progress. Everyone's progress, like, what's going on? Is anything getting done here? And all of a sudden it goes off without a hitch. It's just a great job by everyone, so thank you. Let's see here. April 6th at 3 o'clock here. It's the City Hall dedication, part of the 150th. So 3 o'clock, April 6th. A note as a reminder, anyone in the city who's holding an event this year, they are encouraged to submit the information to the 150th calendar at explorehoyoke.com. It was brought up, so I'll mention it. I have been working with the mayor to try and get new furniture in the chambers. The mayor is working diligently to do that because it was brought up. He is also working on trying to get the funds and the person to do the mural and how we're going to achieve saving it. So it is in the works. Councilor Givner?
How about some outlets?
Well, he's also going to do the lighting outlets.
Yes.
It is being worked on. I was holding off because it's not there yet. But since it was brought up, I just didn't want people to think that it's not being discussed. Before I turn it over to Councilor Tallman, she could not make it tonight, and I know we've been trying to get it to her, so I'll get it to her. Amy from the DPW. She was our interim director for Department of Public Works and did an outstanding job helping that department and leading it through until we finally now have our new director there. But I want to just say to her, thank you very much for everything that you did. The City Council voted to give you a proclamation citation to recognize you for all your outstanding work and dedication as the interim director for the DPW. We wish her well on her new job. She has a new job. I do believe treasurer. I forgot the town that she moved to. Is it South Hadley? Belchertown. I was close. There was somewhere around there.
Not really.
But I know, I was way off. Way off. But to Amy, thank you for everything, and I'll get this to her. Lastly, Councilor Tallman, who represents us on the school building update committee. I'm going to turn it over to Councilor Tallman for an update.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few comments on this. I've been on the committee for about a year, a little over a year now, and we've been meeting usually the Thursday after our full council meeting for a couple hours. So this month we've had 2 meetings. We have another meeting this week because really moving along with the project. I think all of us got something back in February from the mayor and from the superintendent, giving us a little bit of progress in what's happening with the school building committee. We meet, like I said, 2 times, at least 2 times. Now this month it's 3 times. Right now we're in the schematic design phase where we're adjusting the model school project to the educational needs and the constraints in Holyoke. We're also right in the process of getting 2 cost estimates. They have these estimators that come in and give us a cost, the price. We have proposed vote language reviewed by the city lawyers and the MSBA legal team. We expect to make a submission to the MSBA on April 27th for their June 21st meeting. In April, the committee is going to file something with the city council to go to the finance committee, and that where we can review the financials, including the cost, total cost, reimbursement, cash flow, etc. And we're looking at a possible vote from the city council before our summer recess. So they're looking at possibly June, the first meeting in June, but there's a backup on June, the second meeting, which would be June 20th. And also anybody's welcome to join the meetings on Thursdays. Like I said, it's usually right after our meeting. It's 6 to 8 on Zoom. And you get the notice, I'm sure, on your laptop and the meeting minutes. And we are having, I think we just got something today from Jeffrey, we're having a meeting. Public meeting is coming up on Wednesday, April 5th at Holyoke High School North. It's at 5:30. And on April 10th, the meeting will be on Zoom from 12, which is a Monday, from 12 to 1. So if anybody can make that or get the word out, like I said, if you look at your phones tonight, there's a flyer, I think, that'll be coming out. We're trying to get those out to the public because April 5th is right around the corner. So hopefully we'll have a decent turnout there where we can have a presentation to the public and let them know what's going on with the school building and the progress that's been made. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know we can't debate the school committee building issue at the moment because of the open meeting law. And I thank Councilor Tallman for the update. Just a reminder, though, our final vote is the appropriation, in which probably will be in the form of a request to bond by the mayor, and that doesn't happen until the final numbers are in place, which makes it always kind of time-wise and awkward in terms of what the MSBA is going to do in terms of what the final costs are for the project. But just to keep that in mind as a procedure, I just wanted to throw that out for everybody, and I'm sure Peter will bring that back to the building committee itself. I just want to follow up, Mr. President, on your words about the parade committee. It always is an incredible event, and the volunteers are just tremendous. And 2 weeks ago, we honored, as we have done under Councilor Bartley's proposal. I think it's been 4 or 5 years now, David, but the parade committee itself, especially their award winners, a special and personal thank you from the McGivern family, because in doing so, you honored my daughter, who was honored by the parade committee with the O'Connell Award. Our weekend was extra special because of Kelly, taking that award. And a few people asked me, where was I in the parade? Well, to you new members of the Holyoke City Council, I always march with the council. But the tradition of an award winner is, as a family, you march with the award winner. So we were a little bit ahead of you this year, but not far. But thank you for honoring Kelly, and much appreciated.
Councilor McGivern, if you ask our group, I was never with our group. I was always 20 cars behind. So
That was the last hurrah, though, right? It was last parade, right?
Former Lieutenant Governor Tim Murray was at the breakfast prior to the parade. I'm not sure if everybody who attended the breakfast caught that. And there was a parade where the Lieutenant Governor marched with not only the city, but with the mayor and the city council. And the state troopers who were guarding Mr. Murray, as Mayor Sullivan, President McGee, and Tim Murray were leaving the line of march to shake people's hands, got back in line when they thought we're with Tim Murray. When they got back in line, Tim Murray was with the mayor, and they were on each side of our president, guarding the look-alike of Tim Murray. Until someone had to bring it to their attention, are you guarding the president of the city council?
I actually looked at Joe and go, who are these people? The good old days. All right,
Good time.
so anyone else? Seeing none. Oh, Councilor Revere.
A shout out to Tessa for getting how many sign holders? 200 and what?
Amen.
183 sign carriers showed up.
Wow. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you to those sign carriers.
That's right.
That is the hardest job on the parade committee, is getting those sign carriers.
Great job.
How about the selfie king? Anybody talk about them? Yeah, come on, huh? Anybody see him online? He must have had about 150 pictures there with I don't know how many people.
No. My highlight was the breakfast.
Hey, the breakfast was
Ambassador
good.
breakfast when I gave an impromptu speech. It was a very warm speech. Thank you. And just had to do with leprechauns, rainbows, and pot of golds, and connecting Ireland to Holyoke, and stating that Ireland is a pot of gold, and Holyoke is a pot of gold, and that rainbow connects us, and thanking our extinguished guests for coming to our beautiful city, and stuff like that. It was nice.
You did a great job right from the cuff. You spoke from the heart, and that's important.
So we're on reports of committee. There was no ordinance. There is
I asked committee
finance.
progress.
Progress.
Yeah.
Progress is 19A.
Progress.
$2,523.40 to be authorized from purchasing to telephone usage. Motion be receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Unless people have questions, we'll fast forward this. I just realized the clock on the wall hasn't been changed yet. This is just an invoice for a prior fiscal year telephone use charges that the new, and we did receive a nice communication from Jamie Morrow that our new interim chief procurement officer, that they picked that up and we just are giving permission to pay for this old invoice. It's legit with this year's monies for last year's invoice.
So pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion to pass the second reading. Clerk will call a roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for this one. 19A.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti, Puello,
Yes.
I. Rivera,
Yes.
J. Rivera.
Yes.
Unanimous.
With your vote, you approve that one. 19B, Committee on Finance, there was a request of $5,481 from firefighters to fire chief. Recommend that be adopted. Receive, adopt, pass first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. The chief did come in to answer any questions, but more important, the law department, and probably most important, the auditor informed us that this amount of money was not in the budget. It was a shortcoming with the interpretation of the contract, which I think is now, I think the chief's contract's like 2 years old, or maybe a year and a half. I'm not exactly sure. So it's a makeup to make sure that the proper amount of money to finish the year for the chief's salary is there. And Tanya did answer some questions, and we recommend that we adopt it to honor the contract.
Motion is passed the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion to pass the second reading. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 19B.
Tomlin,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Puello,
Yes.
I. Rivera,
Yes.
J. Rivera.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Your vote, you approve that one. 19C, Committee on Finance, $16,500 from sewer stabilization to sewer professional services. Motion is to receive, adopt, recommend it be adopted. Motion be receive, adopt, pass first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a request from Mayor Garcia, as all financial appropriations are, for the DPW to increase the amount of money for the consultant that is working on the issue of sewers and the contract and everything that's going on. We had the chair of the Board of Public Works, and we had our new superintendent, Mary Monahan, and our new superintendent, Carl Rossi, with us. They gave us not only on this, but gave us a presentation, which I'll get to in a second, but they gave us the objectives and the idea of why this money is necessary. And the Finance Committee agrees with all three, the mayor, the chair, and the new director, that the $16,500 would be well spent. The stabilization is, I think we all know, is surplus money that was carried over from last year.
Nothing further. Motion is passed first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the transfer.
Tomlin,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Puello,
Yes.
I. Rivera,
Yes.
J. Rivera.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Your vote, you approve that one. 19D, Committee on Finance, a request of $37,359.87 from Special Counsel to two different areas, so therefore recommend it be adopted. Motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had a number of people in on this one, and they got grouped together because well, for discussion purposes, it made sense, but the votes are just a little bit different. Special counsel, the city solicitor was not present, but we asked the auditor, and it's an identified surplus for that account, which is unusual even at this time of year. But she did assure us that it was available, and it is at the moment a surplus. Information and technologies, and where this money is needed for, is there are three departments: the police, the fire, and the DPW. Use an IT specialist company for their dispatching systems, which can be very sophisticated and specialized in terms of any issues or making sure that the software hardware is working accordingly. There was two things here. There was a budget issue under item the 19,359. The chief of the fire department, prior chief actually, but the new chief, was led to believe that the money for that invoice could come out of what was called a knockdown account. Our new sheriff, our new auditor, and she's no longer our new auditor, but said, no, that is not the way we do business in Holyoke. It needs to be more specific in the budget, which will be corrected for this coming year. But we needed to appropriate money for the 19,359 into the line item known as information and technology, so that the invoice, the fire department's portion of the invoice, could be paid. And then the weights and measurers is the $18,000, which is is money is the additional money. We did pass the transfer at our last meeting, but the additional money to go into the weights and measures services for the purpose, it's not the IT purposes, but for the purposes of the budget. Now that we have a full-time sealer of weights and measures, everything kicked in, and this is what the auditor pointed out, was a deficit that is necessary to be able to take care of that line item for the rest of the fiscal year. Sorry, I lost that for a second, but the committee does recommend the appropriation by transfer.
Motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second
Motion
reading?
to pass the second reading. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 19D.
Tommen,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Puello,
Yes.
I. Rivera,
Yes.
J. Rivera.
Yes.
Unanimous.
With your vote, you approve that one. Counselor, do you want to take up all the complied with?
We can do that. It's, I'll just go through them one by one, but yes, we can vote on them
So
together.
19E, F, G, and H take up as a package. For a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
E is Committee on Finance, that Rory Casey, City Treasurer, Moody credit rating for Hoyoke, recommend has been complied with. F is Committee on Finance, referred that the city should stay with the 2035 schedule or move to 24 schedule for unfunded retirement, recommend has been complied with. 19G, order that the DPW superintendent and the BPW chair come before the Finance Committee, a friendly discussion regarding the waste management, including recycling fees, recommend that's complied with. H is that the auditor provide an update on the pilot programs and recommend that that's been complied with. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the first, 19, Moody's 19, the G? E. Thank you. 19E, we had Rory Casey, our treasurer, acting treasurer, came in. Good news, bad news. Moody's is an investor service located in Manhattan. It's not the only one, but it's one of the ones that is up there in terms of what is deemed our grading when it comes to bonding, and it certainly is important. The good news out of the bad news is the bad news being we did get downgraded, which it's been some time since we've been downgraded. The good news is the interpretation of it. Rory told us that Moody's was actually looking to downgrade the city more, but the mayor, the auditor, the treasurer, and others got on a Zoom call with them. The old days we had to go to Manhattan, but that's another story. And they were able to work out some things where Moody's agreed that the downgrade did not have to be as much as they expected. It certainly is important, but Cindy McNary was with the Zoom call to our financial advisor, not bond consultant, but our financial advisor. So the important part about that is that they did work it out with Moody's to a degree. The other thing Rory noted that these days we actually, and most people are using, bond counsel especially, using Standards & Poor for our bond ratings when it comes to bonding itself. And Standards & Poor has remained the same, kept us at the same rating. So we just wanted to vet this out in public because we received this back in the end of December, and that was the explanation for that. Complied with. And we did have a very long discussion. Councilor Jordan's order brought Tony DeLude, our new retirement board director, before the council. He went over what's going on with the retirement board, both in terms of investments, both in terms of our goals, and projected what we're trying to do to cut down our not trying to, but mandated to cut down our unfunded liability. We're on a schedule that's looking at 2035, and Tony made some great points about the even though everybody took a hit in terms of investments. And we have, I believe it's still Ray DePelto, who is the advisor to the retirement board itself, that, that the money invested did take a hit, but it bounced back in the last quarter. We're going in a good direction to get rid of the unfunded liability itself. That's very important because the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has, for some years now, tried to force municipalities out of their own investment schemes themselves and to put the money into investments that the state would control, which they say gives them more leverage in terms of investments. We have done so well over the years, the state has not been able to touch us, and I think that's important, that and a tribute to our retirement board. The retirement board is directly connected to the city, not only because it's our retired employees, but it is governed by membership of retired employees. We do have our auditor as a member, always a member of the voting member of the board itself, and the mayor gets to put one person there. And the reason I say that is it does have an impact on our budget in terms of the city's responsibility, but the big part of it is the membership itself. The committee thanks Councilor Jordan for this order because it was a very enlightening update on where we are, and we report that it's complied with. I think we can stop anytime, but I think the complied. The other one is the DPW, as I mentioned 2 minutes ago, came in before us. Incredible presentation by Carl Rossi, backed up with the chairman of the board, Mary Monahan. The mayor was not with us, but which is unusual. But we did go through. A lot of it was about, to begin with, was about both recycling and land fees and stuff like that. Many of us were surprised to find out the dual stream was suspended, I guess is the best word, without really the city council being informed sometime last year or a little bit before that. I believe it was last April. And the dual stream being in recycling, we always use the MRF, and we always, when we put our trash out and we put our recycling out, we always put the paper goods separate from the plastic and glass goods themselves. This is important to understand because that is the purer way to do recycling, and much more important, it also is cheaper to do it that way at the destination for recycling goods. I think many of us were around when we found out that this was a glitch in the whole system when China stopped accepting it, and I think at some point we got away from the MRF and they started just putting it into the single stream, and that to me is just a no-no. Recycling, very important, is environmentally correct and financially efficient and financially solid. No matter why you do it, it's important because whatever we recycle doesn't go to the landfill or doesn't go to the transfer station, therefore is not part of the tipping fee. In some cases, not as much as usual, we make some money on recyclable goods, and that money comes back into the general fund. But most important, we do it for the right reasons, and that's the environment, and that's the way that not only is it part of an ordinance that governs us in the city, it is, I think, just the most common sense right thing to do. I'm making too much a long report after promising no long reports, Mr. President, but I thought that discussion was important, and Councilor Jordan and Councilor Bartley, myself, filed the order, and we did a lot of talking about this at the meeting.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I'm just going to speak to the last two since I kind of started them. So on 19G, Mr. President, hopefully the public paid attention to the chair's excellent report. I just want to point out that we learned in Finance Committee meeting that night that the city has allocated $500,000 for new trash totes that will be rolled out to all residential owners this coming year. They were a little short on the details of the timing and how it's going to happen, but all residential owners should be aware that your old school bins and all the rest of that are going by the wayside, that there'll be trash totes comparable to what we have for the recycle totes as well. So I have two of them, and they're filled to the brim every 2 weeks. So we're going to have something similar for waste management as well. I'll point out that Mayor Murphy purchased with ARPA, and this is being purchased with ARPA funds. So ARPA funds were used by Mayor Murphy to procure, I think, 100 more. We could certainly use a lot more recycling totes as well. As the chair noted, very diplomatically, we got away from dual stream recycling. We went to single stream recycling. We're not, it's too late to prosecute, but it violated city ordinances and it was done in a vacuum. Never should have happened, but there it was. Now, the public should be aware that we are at we never went away from it, but we are at dual stream recycling, and there is going to be serious enforcement relative to that. So I would expect that people that are not following that should be aware you're going to get tickets. And my hope is it'll start with a warning, but expect to have fines for not dual recycling. As it's pointed out to me many times, those little bins are basically, as one counselor pointed out to me, it's like throwing trash on the ground. So we got to get back to, hopefully we can get more totes for recycling. End of that speech. Relative to 19H, 19H is the pilot update. The chair was gracious enough to take this up at least 3 times, but maybe 4, because I had to miss one of the meetings relative to that. There's been, I think, very fair coverage on Mass Live and in the paper by Dennis for this issue. I am going to say that, yes, it's complied with, but the comments I made in finance stand. I think we need to do a whole lot better in terms of billing, collections, and memorializing what these agreements are. One of them, and I have an email from the current city solicitor, this is with ISO New England. This is a multi-million-dollar operation. The agreement is on a handshake. Now, that's old school stuff that you and I can maybe appreciate, Mr. President, but in this day and age, a handshake for $140,000 a year, that doesn't cut it. I would also point out, and I appreciate Dennis's commentary in the paper, the Green High-Tech Performance Computing Center. It's $80,000 based on an assessment from 2012. Well, that assessment is well north of where it is. And as pointed out, you're looking at college institutions with $55 billion endowments. For Harvard, MIT, $25 billion. I'm just saying maybe we could do a little better. And then the last comment is there are entities who promised a pilot that simply are not paying. Maybe we're not sending an invoice. So my comments were on a quarterly basis. I hope that the assessor, the mayor, the auditor, the treasurer, the collector, and the treasurer will get together and figure this stuff out, get the billing in, because it brings in a significant sum of money, multiple millions to the city through pilots. So let's hope they can do a little better for the future. Thank you.
Oh, Councilor Jordan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to touch on a few of these. One briefly on just quickly on the pilots, very important. I think the mayor, in my conversations with him, is very committed to redouble the efforts to get us revisit a number of these agreements. And I think it would marvel people to see some of the type of tax breaks that are given to certain entities who well afford could be paying the same as taxes as everybody else, residential and commercial alike. So if the city is going to be able to balance its books, it needs to address its exempt property here in the city of Holyoke for those that can pay. You know, obviously small nonprofits, religious institutions, that's really what it was intended for. But when you start seeing companies that, 25 or more of the staff are making over $500,000 in compensation according to their 990 filings, you start to say to yourself, why does this organization have a 60% plus tax break? Those things need to be addressed, and they need to be addressed very soon. I wanted to come back to a couple of the other different points on 19E and F. One is, I I laud the retirement board, who's doing a very good job, by the way, in addressing the unfunded liability question. They are very trying to get this done as soon as possible. I would point out, though, that the current schedule that they're on is based on their financial status as of the end of 2021. It did not take into account the financial performance of the stock market and what their account balances were at the end of 2022. They had a dramatic drop, as many did in the stock market, and they're very heavily dependent on how the financial markets perform. So it'll be interesting to see if some of those assumptions will have to be revisited. But the bigger point is that they have signed us up to get fully funded by 2033. I think we all need to appreciate, both the mayor and this city council, what that means. And that is that there is going to be a dramatic increase in the annual payment to the retirement board, north of an additional $300,000 extra each and every year. And the question is, do we have the tax revenue coming in on the levy to actually pay that? Because that's what we're signing up for. So the question is, are we prepared to make the sacrifices? And again, I will say, that remains to be seen. What I've seen so far over the prior year is I haven't seen any sacrifices. Everything here through here is yes, yes, yes to everything. We saw it here earlier tonight. Yes, yes, yes to another $65,000 in vacation benefits. When do we ever say no to anything so that we can pay the outstanding debts that are owed for this community? Everybody wants to talk about benefits to employees. Here we have a large unfunded liability for our employees' retirement. Where is that money going to come from? When is anybody going to put some money aside to do this? This is going to require sacrifice, okay? Because you cannot keep continuing to go to the well to ask the citizens of this community for more and more and more taxes. Well, you don't have to go to Harvard to figure out that if the retirement expense is going to go up $300,000 every single year for the next 10 plus years, 12 years, that unless that's going to be a radical increase in the levy, we don't have that kind of new growth. Let's hope we do. But we have to deal with the financial realities, and that's going to require sacrifice. And this does not address still the outstanding OPEB liability for the other non-retirement things. I filed an order here for later tonight to begin to address that. But the retirement board is doing its job, and they're doing it well. The point is, though, that is going to require difficult decisions by this council to begin to prioritize. And the yes, yes, yes to everything is not going to work in light of the financial realities of this community. So now, which I think dovetails nicely into 19E, which is the downgrade of our credit rating. People here can begin to continue to naysay Jourdain as a person who continues to talk about these financial realities. Fine, people can certainly outvote me in this chamber, but me is not the person you ultimately need to deal with. These credit reporting agencies are picking up on the city's continuing deteriorating financial status. You will not buffalo these people for too much longer. They wanted to go to this, we sweet talked them back to this, but it was still a downgrade. This will continue to cost this community a great deal more in interest if we do not continue to make the type of difficult decisions we need to financially in this community over the years ahead. We'll see if this council is committed to do that. That remains to be seen. But this was a clarion call. They're already tipping their hands on various points. One, that you're heavily depreciated, 80% depreciation of your capital. You're not reinvesting in the community. You have this large cost ahead of you at the retirement board. They have declining economics and financials in the community. And yet, let's see if this council has the financial discipline to answer the call. That remains to be seen. So that is our financial realities, whether we wish them away or not. And so these people who are independent of us and independent of the city are continuing to take a good close look under the hood. And they will continue to do so, whether we wish it or not. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Rivera, then Councilor McGivern.
Thank you. I just heard, I thank you for the analysis and the breakdown from both McGivern, Bartley, and Councilor Jordan. For me, it's like I'm hearing like a plan, right? It sounds like there are things that are coming out and information that is being put out that is gonna allow for the mayor and for the council to now hopefully take the steps necessary to correct things that have festered for a very long time, right? It's obviously that been festering for so long that it's gotten to the point that the credit agencies are now bringing us down on our ratings, right? That doesn't happen in a day. That doesn't happen over a couple months. It doesn't happen in a year. That happens over 15 years, 10 years, 20 years. So now it's, for me, I don't look at it negative, right? Because I've only been here for about a year and a half. But at the end of the day, the idea is we have a foundation. We have something to work with, right? We have somewhere to start. We know which way to go. We know where to maneuver, how to duck when we need to duck, and what are the best foot forward for us to put. And it sounds like that the mayor is working in collaboration with the retirement board, because they're obviously doing their job, right, to make sure that we try to do this to the best of our abilities, and make sure that we mitigate this issue. I'm glad that Councilor Jordan has brought this up, because it is true. If it's going to be growing $300,000 for the next year, every year for the next however many years, it's something that we should get in front of, right? And we should be taking steps to try to fix. So again, this is actually good information for me. It helps me think better, and hopefully it helps the mayor think better, and it'll help us to try to make better decisions when we move forward. Thank you.
Councilor McGivern.
Just a couple follow-ups. First, I thank Councilor Bartley on the talking about the mainstream and the new proposed way that our waste is going to be picked up. I focused on recycling, obviously, but that was one part that's very important that we learned at the Finance Committee. On Moody's, I said it, and I agree with Councilor Jordan. Moody's ratings is important in terms of our financial ability, especially when it comes to borrowing and when it comes to a number of things. But the one thing I did leave out, the good part, or the good, the bad, the ugly. The good part, even though we were downgraded, part of the reasons we were downgraded isn't just our reflection of what our finances are, but is Moody's changed their formula, and the downgrade was kind of across the board to a lot of municipalities in terms of the way Moody's started looking at them. But more important, Standards & Poor has not downgraded us, and that's the one, seems to be the standard that's being used more these days. Unfunded liability, I didn't think it was going to be a big discussion tonight, and it was really not in terms of what we're voting on, but when we take the budget up later in a couple of months, it certainly is something that we should always keep in mind. One of the things about unfunded liabilities is it's inherent from the beginning of the retirement system being implemented in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, because the Commonwealth and municipalities, just midstream of, and I'll explain that a little bit better in a second, midstream started this wonderful retirement system, but no one paid into all the employees that were in the system or employed at the time, even though they became eligible for their years of service. If a person was 10 years an employee, the retirement started, they worked another 5, 8, 10 years, the city only paid for the additional years. They didn't back pay for the first 10 years, and that's how unfunded liability became out of control, with no way the city could be able to catch up to that just by appropriating the dollars themselves. Therefore, we bring in a guy like Ray DePelto. we invest, we make money, and we're giving time to bring that unfunded liability down. And I think the plan right now looks like it's reasonable for 2035. Councilor Jordan makes a good point that maybe we got to start looking at 2040 or something before we, if we can't afford our portion as a city. But unfunded liability is something that was inherited, not created, but inherited because of the beginning of the retirement board. Nobody was thinking about the future.
Anyone further? Oh, Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, just real briefly on the recycling. They also mentioned that we have 2 brand new recycling trucks that came in, so they'll be going with the bins coming up. I think we just purchased them within the last 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
So we starting to build up some of our equipment that we've been sort of putting off, right, Kevin?
Yes, sir.
Yep, it's important to have that.
Very important.
All right, Councilor Rivera.
Just real quick on the bins for the recycling. Is it going to be the little bins?
No, the tall
Big ones.
wheel ones.
The big ones like in Chicopee?
Yeah.
All right, great. Awesome.
35 gallon or something like that.
Good, because those little bins.
All right, so these are all complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? There was no public safety, public service, 21A, Committee on Public Service, was referred an order from the mayor appointing Gene Jonker, 198 Locust Street to serve as the alternate for the Historical Commission. Will serve a 3-year term, which will expire January 30th, 2026. Recommend that be confirmed. Councilor Tallman.
Yes, well, we had Gene Jonker on Zoom that night last week, and what a candidate. I mean, I didn't have her as a teacher. I didn't go to Holyoke High, but a couple of our colleagues did and remember her well. She's got great experience. She's looking at repurposing buildings. She's a lifelong resident. She's been a teacher in the public schools. Actually, she kept working for a while to provide leadership for teaching in different colleges and in schools. She was involved in the Olmsted Parks that we had, I think, last year, the architecture, the open spaces of the city of Holyoke, and she's also on the Holyoke Preservation Trust and Holyoke Historical Cemeteries and Monuments. So very much involved, and we had some good questions for her that Councilor McGivern, Councilor Bartley asked about, and Councilor Jordan about, some of the old buildings that we have in the city and how can we save them? How can we, give it time to really put something into it, some money into it, and try to get the people to develop some of these buildings. And I think we heard from somebody tonight in the public comment about trying to get a building down here on High Street, the structure solid again. So great candidate. She's looking forward, and I believe she's been on a commission before several years ago, and she's back. So anybody has anything else to say, excellent candidate the mayor picked, and very much involved in our community, and looking forward to her, working with the city on this board.
Anyone further? So motion is to confirm the appointment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 21B, Committee on Public Service, was referred in order that the Honorable Council pledge to support and protect the democratic rights of the ex-felons and former incarcerated to vote, run for office in old seats that were duly elected for. Recommended that the order be complied with. The request that the city clerk provide information on the city webpage outlining voting rights to run for office for formerly incarcerated. Recommended. That's the
Recommend this has been complied with. This is filed by Councilor Rivera. We had a very good discussion on this, and thank you, Councilor, for bringing this up, talking about people, the rights of ex-felons and people that were formerly incarcerated to get involved in the democratic process, to vote, to run for office, and hold a seat that they're elected for. The discussion that came about because of what's, I guess, happened down in Florida, people being discriminated against for running or being, I don't know if they hunted down, I don't know if you stated, is that what it is, and fined and stuff, and arrested. So this, and this shouldn't be tolerated here in this community, and we made a statement, Councilor Bartley, I basically stated to see if we can file something with the city clerk and the Secretary of State to put something on the website to let the individuals know of their rights and what they can do in being being involved in the process of voting and running for office. So if there's anything else I missed, Counselor?
No, if I may.
Counselor.
Now, you covered most of the topics. So originally I filed this to be a resolution. I would still like it to be a resolution, but it is what it is. I filed something else that's in ordinance anyways that could possibly fix that situation. And it stemmed out of the fact that I believe it was in August, September-ish, there were a variety of different arrests going on in Florida because of a new policy that got put into effect. And well, not a new policy, but they created a new, somewhat like our what do you call it? The team that we go out that gives tickets to everybody, like our Flex Squad. But instead, they went out searching for people that voted with a criminal record. Interesting. So at the end of the day, what ends up happening is these arrests that are posted in the news on Fox and CNN and all these other things. Granted, this is not happening in Holyoke, but people don't know that. People don't know that, and someone with a criminal record is going to see that, hear that, and when it comes down to it, they're just not going to vote. They're not going to go. They're not going to get involved in the democratic process. So the idea or the intention for me in creating the resolution is to show as a council that we don't support that, and that we stand with anyone that has come back into society and that is trying to change their life and get a second chance. Because technically, our forefathers that came over here were looking for a second chance. That's the idea, right? So hopefully we can carry on that tradition for the second chance for everyone else too as well. But yeah, I would like to also thank Councilor Bartley for including the piece with having the city clerk educate some of the people on their voting rights. And it's got to continue. It's got to get to the next level where there's training too for some of the people that are at the voting booths. So if someone does ask, they can clarify the actual question to the people that are in there too as well. But it's the first steps and it's moving in that direction. So I appreciate that and thank you.
Anyone further? So this has been recommended, it's been complied with, the recommendation for the posting by the city clerk. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
22A, we already did. There's no charter and rules, no joint committee. On to motions, orders, and resolutions. All right. So 25A from Councilor Vacan, that Viola or Suez repair the catch basins at number 14, 11, and 2. What? Oh, okay.
Mr. President?
Yep.
I just have a procedural question on this.
Sure.
Because I think the fund that the money is in for this may be depleted. So I'm not sure if we can do a receive and adopt and send over to them, or if it would have to go to finance. I'm just not sure if it.
I say receive, adopt, send it to them, because by contract they're supposed to. Now, if the funds are depleted, they can come back and tell us, and then we'll take the next steps to try and fix it. Councilor McGivern?
Okay, great.
Good point by both. I think also we should include, not just send it directly to Viola Suez, but send it to the Board of Public Works too. And there may be other funds out there, which there has been over the years where they will do a certain amount of work, whether it's stabilization or ARPA monies.
All right, so motion is receive, adopt, send to Suez with a copy of the DPW. All those in favor?
Please.
Aye. All
Aye.
opposed?
Thank
26, you're welcome. Councilor Jordan, that Division 2 of our ordinances be amended to require the mayor and personnel department create and implement a job evaluation system for the city employees so that all employees receive goals, standards, and performances. So this is going to go to ordinance?
Ordinance, yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
27 from Councilor Jordan, that the Law Department and City Council meet to discuss the recent Supreme Court case that was discussed today.
Charter and rules.
So to charter and rules. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
28 from Councilor Jordan, the city develop a personnel policy for handling administrative leave and codifying the rules of ordinance. So to ordinance.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Make a motion to suspend the rules to take 29, 32 as a package, refer to finance.
Motion is take up 29 and 32. 29. So all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 29 is $97,640.20 from capital stabilization to personnel equipment. 32 is $7,590 from sanitarian 1 to sanitarian 2 and 3. So those are to finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Make a motion, Mr. President, suspend the rules and take 30, 31 as a package for adoption.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rules, take up 30 and 31. Motion be receive, adopt. First as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. 30 is $2,293.90 from firefighters to injured on duty. And then the 31 is $14,925.29 from, and this is the police injured on duty. So motion is receive, adopt, pass first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it's, with the firefighters, it's staying the same. I believe it's 1. And the police department is down a little bit, but again, what we're doing this evening is taking salary monies for the individuals injured on duty. They get their salary for the amount of time that they can collect it. We have, for an accounting purposes, we put it into a different line item so we know that it's being spent appropriately, but at the same time accordingly when people are not actively performing.
So 430 for firefighters, it's 1. For police, number 31, it's 6.
Hey, was 7 if I remember 2 weeks ago.
It was 8 at one time.
It's like 8 or
Is it
10 at one time, too.
Yeah.
So,
Councilor Tallman has a better memory. He's younger.
By a couple years, I think, yeah.
so motion is passed first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion, God bless you. Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion to pass the second reading. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 30 and 31.
Tommen,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Puello,
Yes.
I. Rivera,
Yes.
J. Rivera.
Yes.
Unanimous.
For your vote, you approve those two. 33 from Councilor Murphy Ramboletti, or at the City Council in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30B, declare 94 Newton Street as surplus to DGNR.
Yes, please.
All those in favor?
Yeah, Mr. President?
Yeah. Councilor Bartley first. Yep.
Yeah, I think I'm the only one that,
Oh,
I'm okay with sending it there, but can we just get a communication from them as to what were the outstanding taxes? 'Cause I ask the same question every time, and sometimes they give it, sometimes, it's hard to, it's not really ready, so.
Okay, so 33 to DGNR with a request that the outstanding tax liability be sent over.
Just regular, but they just put in the same order that they prepared, that'd be great. For both these, really.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
34 is same thing, declare Newton Street parcel surplus, so that would also go to DGNR. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 35 from Councilor Puello, a handicap sign be placed in front of 400 Maple Street.
Ordinance and
so
copy to disabilities.
So ordinance with a copy to commission. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
36 from Councilor Puello, that the following entry be added to the city ordinance section 86-325, stop streets. So to ordinance.
Ordinance.
Just under discussion?
Yep, Councilor Bartley.
Just through the chair to Councilor Puello, is this where the stop sign was, Will?
Yeah.
I'm not the stop sign.
The light.
Stoplight, yeah.
The stoplight, okay. All right, just through the chair to, I did get some communication from the fire alarm division that they're interested in putting a raised crosswalk here, I think, which would be very positive. So I'm just going to encourage you to contact the alarm division as well, just to coordinate that with them, if you would.
For sure, yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, Chris is working on it too, Chris Baker, the city engineer, and we co-filed that order too, Councilor Bartley. So it's in the works.
Yeah, we did.
Me and you, yeah.
I forgot that, yeah.
Look at that. Wow. All right, so to
I
ordinance.
already told you I'm losing it. I told her that.
No, you're
I'm
not.
losing it.
What are you losing?
My mind.
No, I don't think so.
Long time ago.
No, you're not.
Can't lose what you didn't have.
Yeah, it's copy that.
Come on now. Let's get
Order.
No, order there. What can we?
Wow.
That's a shot. What can we get along here?
Shots
Come on.
fired.
All right, so that's the ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 37 from Councilor Puello, that the sidewalk at 62 Columbia Street be repaired. So motion to receive.
Can I be added to that
adopt,
one?
Send to DPW.
Can I be added to that
And
one?
can't adding Councilor Rivera.
Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah. Of course.
All right. Me and you.
No, you can't.
Me and you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
38 from Councilor Jenny Rivera. Lyman Terrace Residents Association requests that Front Street be made into a one-way street. So that be the ordinance?
Well,
Or was that?
I think that
I
goes
think
to
it
Board-
goes to
Public
Board
Works.
of Public
Board of
Works.
Board of Public
recommendation,
Works.
then back to ordinance.
All right, so the Board of Public Work copy to ordinance. Because I always believe we
Can I
have to
be
have something in
that
ordinance
one?
ready. Yeah. Adding
Thank
Councilor
you.
Malauulu. So all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
39, a sign from Councilor Jenny Rivera, sign stating slow down autistic child or slow down sign be put on East Dwight Street close to 166 Dwight Street. That to ordinance? We have to do those by ordinance?
No, Mr. President?
Yeah, Councilor Bartley had this before.
First off, it doesn't have to go to ordinance. Looks
good.
Okay.
So,
No.
and second off, I just would like to offer a friendly amendment, if I may,
Absolutely.
because just to be consistent, we've removed child, we said autistic person. So is that reasonable for that area? Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so just autistic persons possibly would be the best way to do it. So I'd like to offer a friendly amendment, change the word
Child to
to
persons.
persons, just to be
On that amendment, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
And the motion would be to receive, adopt, and
Receive and
refer to
adopt.
Public Works.
All right, the motion is receive, adopt, send to DPW. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion adjourned.
I'll second that.
We only
Let's go.
have a few. We have 30 late files. Just kidding, I'm so. I said a few. Only two. From Councilor Tallman, Councilor McGee, late file A, that ordinance be created to allow wind turbines for residential use. See model type rule, which is attached. So that's the ordinance. It's a constituent request. So that is to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Late file B from Councilor McGee, order that an ordinance be established to address the 2/3 majority vote for the body vote. Legal, please provide the language necessary for review. So
Make a motion, lay on the table, and pass at our next reading. I'm just kidding.
Ordinance?
Do ordinance.
We
All
need
those
an
in
ordinance.
favor?
Send it to ordinance.
All opposed? I do believe that is it. Motion is to adjourn. Don't debate.
Motion.
Oh, I
All
second
those in
that.
favor?
Aye.
Oh, sorry.
Aye.
Nope, just voting yes.
Good night.
All right. Have a